Go ahead and begin. Let me check with our friends. Are you all set to go over there? Okay, well, let's begin. All right, well, good evening, everyone. I'm calling the Carlisle Select Board to order. I would like to accept a motion for us to enter executive session. I move that the board enter into executive session pursuant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 30A, Paragraph 21A, Paragraph 2, to conduct a strategy session in preparation for collective bargaining negotiations with CTA, Carlisle Teachers Association, as an open meeting may have detrimental effect on the town's negotiating position, and I move that the board enter executive session under purpose 7 to review the draft executive session minutes of August 31, 2021, and to determine whether those minutes are ripe for release in compliance with the open meeting law, to invite right, okay, and to return to open session for the purpose of announcing whether the executive session minutes are now ripe for release, and then to continue with the open session meeting. Second. Roll call vote. Arnold, aye.
Reed, aye.
Reed, aye. I guess we're doing alphabetical tonight. No. All right, excellent. We're going to enter executive session, and we will return to our open meeting following executive session. All righty. This is the Carlisle Select Board meeting for Tuesday, November 9th. Before I review the agenda, I would like to just take a moment to express our sadness and condolences to Melissa Stamp's family. She is our town assessor and passed away last week. And I know from my own personal experience with her, she was a really dedicated to our town and doing the very best she could in her job. And I recall that we have conversations about people that were having difficulty with paying their taxes or some other issue, that she really bent over backwards to work with them and try to figure out solutions. And she was also just a real lively character, a great sense of humor. So we will miss her very much. And I wanted to express my condolences to the family. Would others like to make a comment?
I would. I too would like to express my condolences to the family. Melissa was just so much fun to work with. When you walked into the office, she was always the first one with a smile. She was always the first, saying, "Hi, how are you?" Just kind of just that bubbly, energetic demeanor that she had. I really liked her a lot. I got to know her pretty well, and I'm really going to miss her. And I'm very sorry for the family for their loss.
Well, I just want to second all the remarks that have been made. With regard to Melissa, I always look forward to her smile and to go over, catch up on family, and so she is going to be deeply missed, and deeply also the whole town is going to deeply miss her. She had one project which she just recently completed, which was actually reported in the Mosquito about not giving an abatement for particular use of a property, and she was dogged and doing the best, absolutely best she could for our town. So we're definitely going to miss her.
And yeah, no, just always and being fair. You know, I mean, I know a number of people that, you know, she talked with and worked with, right, to make sure that they could stay in Carlisle, and, you know, and Board of Assessors as well, that you don't always get that. And it was Carlisle first, so she'll be missed.
Yes, hi. You want to come up and just speak here at the podium? Thanks. Just introduce yourself. Thank you.
I'm Ken Mostello. I'm the chair of the Board of Assessors. I worked with Melissa for, it has to be about 10 years. We worked very closely together. Over the last 2 years, as board chair, I was on the phone with her every week. And I can say Melissa did a fantastic job. She made our lives easy, frankly. And yeah, she was very service-oriented, diligent. I'm going to miss her terribly, and I know the rest of the board will too. So we're really sorry to see her gone, and I feel sorry for the family. I really do. She was a new grandmother, and her daughter was soon to get married. She left a lot behind.
Yeah. Thank you. Well, she will certainly stay in our thoughts. So let me review what we're covering this evening in our select board meeting. Following our executive session, which I will mention in a minute, we'll have community input, and then I see Chief Fisher is on our Zoom call, and he will make an update as the head of the LAPC. We are not going to take up the request for an additional police officer tonight. We're going to move that to the 23rd. At 7:30, we have scheduled a dangerous dog hearing. At 8:30, the Town Governance Task Force is going to provide us with an update. And then we'll do cemetery deeds at 9:05. We have appointments to several committees. Then the town administrators report, liaison reports, and then approval of minutes and the warrants. And then with an adjournment, we expect to be about 9:35 tonight. First, I want to say that in terms of the executive session we just held, we did approve the minutes from our executive session in August, and so those are now available for release. Under community input, does anyone on the Zoom call or anyone here in the audience have anything for community input? All right, well, seeing none, I do have two statements from different members of our community that we agreed to read, that I agreed to read aloud to have entered into the record. The first is from Stacy Lennon at 195 Stern Street. She sent an email to the select board November 5th, and she writes, "By now you've seen the results of the pickleball open records request, which surfaced numerous emails between RecCom Chair Drew McMorrow and the Steinbergs over the summer. On July 19th, Drew wrote the following to the donor. I will begin a small public campaign to ensure support and smooth passage. I will get the Mosquito to publish an enthusiastic article, the author of which is an avid pickleballer. I won't mention the Steinberg name, of course, but getting the Carlisle pickleball community excited will help squelch significant opposition before it gets started, I think. There are so many enthusiastic folks that our usual naysayers should get the hint early on. While there's no legal basis for opposition that we can see or power to stop it under the process we've outlined, we still want to prevent any of that from forming and making future hearings and votes messy affairs." The author, Stacy, continues, "Can we agree that the above does not indicate a good faith intention to ascertain community support? Indeed, this is evidence of an appointed public servant blatantly engineering a process to produce an outcome he wants. Actual public sentiment be damned. Open meeting law violations aside, this is a leadership issue. My questions for the select board: 1, do the ends justify the RecCom chair's means? Number 2, if not, is it time to reconsider Drew McMorrow's leadership role? These are not trivial questions. Your stance on them will send a signal to everyone in Carlisle, public officials, employees, volunteers, residents, and voters. about the kinds of clandestine behaviors the select board is willing to tolerate in the name of getting things done. Sincerely, Stacy Lennon, 195 Stern Street. And she had requested that we read this correspondence into the record this evening. In response, Drew McMorrow sent us a letter dated November 7th. This is from Drew McMorrow, Chair of the Recreation Commission. I'm writing to address Ms. Lennon's recent message, quoting one of my emails from a public records request. As a public appointee, it is entirely within my responsibilities to develop proposals and seek public support for them. As the excerpt indicates, we always intended to make the process public to ensure support before moving forward. Since concerns were raised about pace and transparency of the project, we have held public hearings on the project, encouraged the donor to shed their anonymity, and cooperated with public record requests. As Nellie Steinberg, quote, the director of the foundation, indicated to the Mosquito, the donor is willing to wait until a town meeting vote at the appropriate time. This discussion should be focused on what is good for the town. I believe this project represents a great opportunity to improve our recreational resources and the quality of community life in Carlisle. That I am in favor of finding a way to make this happen and to winning the public support for it are not secrets. I welcome a discussion with anyone who wants to engage with me directly about this proposal to explain why I think it is good for Carlisle. I acknowledge that the Recreation Commission has learned some lessons from this experience and recognizes the importance of open meetings and a transparent process. We do not wish to leave the impression that this or any decision was made behind closed doors. Regards, Drew McMorrow, Chair, Recreation Commission. So we're not going to have any discussion about that, but they've now been entered into the record. All righty, so let's move on. And Chief Fisher with an LEPC update, please.
Thank you very much for having me. I'd like to report the LEPC met yesterday for a bi-weekly meeting. We spent a significant amount of time at the meeting, frankly, sharing stories about Melissa Stamp and all she did for our town and for planning. So I do want to talk a little bit about that, just because she was so important to all of us who worked in town and who volunteer in town, for the volunteers in town. Switching gears, we did have, we're at now 259 total cases in Carlisle, which, if you're keeping math, is a nine positive increase since 2 weeks ago. Importantly, tomorrow there's a joint clinic between Concord and Carlisle for residents 5 to 12 at the Alcott School from 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. That'll be staffed by both Carlisle and Concord volunteers and employees. I did also see an update that they've added a second clinic on the 17th, so the following Wednesday, with the same format, an electronic sign up, 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. The pool testing at the school has continued, and I'm 90% sure there were no positive tests again during this past 2-week period. The COA is reported just a laundry list of safe activities they're doing for seniors. One thing I'd like to highlight that was brought up by Joan at COA is they're back up to over 100 rides per month, which is basically their pre-COVID numbers. Our fire department is continuing to do the important testing for Carlisle residents, employees, COVID testing. They've really done a fantastic job with that. It's been an important asset for our town, important thing that we're able to offer. The library is continuing their functions, and they're actually opening activities up on their 3rd floor again with safe spacing. And I guess in the name of keeping the best for last, Tim Goddard reported that CARES has confirmed that we are getting reimbursed for the cost of the structures. So really kudos to everyone who stayed the course with this. especially our financial folks, and for Tim himself. So that meant that the town did not bear the expense of that. That was able to be reimbursed by the federal government for an expense from COVID. So that was super great news. And I wanted to finish off with that. Does anybody have any specific questions? Anything that I forgot, those members that were there that I didn't mention? Oh, geez, you're really easy on me tonight. Thank you very much. And we'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Thank you, Chief. All right, well, we have a few minutes before the 7:30 hearing is scheduled to begin. So I'm thinking we should jump down to the appointments and resignations. And I would welcome a motion to be made on the first one that's listed in your packet. I move that the Select Board vote to accept the resignation of Conservation Commissioner Kenneth Billet, effective immediately. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor? Aye. His resignation is accepted. You have it up?
I move that the Select Board vote to appoint Brian Murphy at 7 School Street to serve on the Carlisle Conservation Commission with a term expiring on June 30th, 2023.
Second. Any discussion?
Yeah, so Sylvia texted, I don't know if she mentioned it to you, but, so Ken was also on the Cranberry Bog Committee, so she asked that Brian be appointed to that as well. So can we do that? Just because we're running into quorum issues on the Cranberry Bog.
I move that the Select Board vote to appoint Brian Murphy at 7 School Street to serve on the Carlisle Conservation Commission and the Cranberry Bog Committee with a term expiring June 30th, 2023.
I'll second that. Okay.
Thank you.
So do they have, both of them have 1 year things? Or do they not have anything? No, they both expire.
Well, so he would be taking over Ken's spot on the Cranberry Bog.
Do we need to accept the resignation from Ken from the Cranberry Bog?
He was the Conscom rep, or maybe not.
Automatic.
Yeah, or he was one of the Conscom reps, I think. It's him and Al.
Okay.
All right, so we can go ahead and take a vote on that? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right, so that is approved. All right, I move that the Select Board vote to appoint Lee Stores of 94 Brook Street and Christine Lear of, where's she, Hemlock Hill? No, you can remember, but she's up there, let me see if I have it. Okay.
She's not in the, Oak Knoll. She's not
Oak
in the-
Knoll, I knew
Well,
it
because
was.
we had received her letter of
Oak Knoll.
interest in previous packets, but we didn't actually make her appointment.
To serve on the Public Safety Facility Task Force with an indefinite term.
Second.
Any discussion?
How many have we now with these?
This will make it 4
Okay. When do we launch them?
now,
This launches them, this gives them a quorum.
yeah.
Okay, what number of no further questions?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, those appointments
I
are
move
made.
that the
So when
Select
do we
Board,
take up luncheon? Is that something we do today?
No.
I move that the Select Board,
Try it again. Third time's a charm.
What was it called? Sorry, I was just letting Sylvia know. Then I get a text.
I guess just a question about it, what do we mean by launching them?
I just think they're ready to start.
We've already,
have the
We
charter.
have a charter.
we've had the charter, we've approved the charter.
Yeah.
Is that something you just tell them?
Yeah, I will think that they can meet ASAP now,
Yeah.
as soon as they get,
I think there's no other steps required at this point.
besides swearing in and going to the meeting.
Right. I move that the Select Board vote to appoint Scott Jameson, 153 Nathan Lane, to serve on the Recreation Commission with a term expiring June 30th, 2024.
Second that.
Any discussion?
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right, that's approved. Thank you. And what's the cemetery deeds? Those are the 7:20, we were so speedy. All right, let's see, are there parts of your, yeah, let's just do the cemetery deeds, good idea. Deed 767, I move that the select board vote to transfer land in the public burial ground to Thomas and Marie Bellotta of 77 Nathan Lane at Green Cemetery Lot D 168, graves 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6.
Second.
I'm gonna do all of them at once.
Yeah, we've done that
Okay,
before, that
deed
seems.
768, move that the select board vote to transfer land in the public burial ground to Deborah and Joseph Jancic, 172 Baldwin Road at Green Cemetery Lot D 208, graves 1 and 2. And I move that the select board vote to transfer land in the public burial ground to James and Carol Davis of 232 Monroe Hill at Green Cemetery Lot D 205, graves 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And lastly, deed 770, move that the select board vote to transfer land in the public burial ground to Patsy Hayden of 153 Log Hill Road at Green Cemetery Lot D 151, grave 3.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
And these are the correct
Granted then, all right.
signature pages, because we have on ones before.
Yeah, I think,
Jen just brought them over. Okay, great.
so,
All right, so that's completed. Let's see, does anyone have a liaison report that is 8 minutes or less?
I attended the Council on Aging board meeting this morning, and it was a good meeting, nice and short. Oh, sorry. Good meeting, nice and short. I think most of the discussion was about pickleball. There are several avid pickleball players on COA, but COA itself has expressed publicly that, you know, they're concerned that the location would be a problem for a future community center. And on the good side, along the lines of Drew's letter in response to Stacy, I think the RecCom had sent them a list of things kind of saying, you know, let's talk. Let's talk. So it seems that there will be some informal meeting between those boards about, you know, the overall use plan. There is then the master planning report coming out in a couple of weeks. So I think my view, I guess, personal view at this point is that the little kerfuffle about pickleball actually has had a good outcome. It's kind of re-energized this debate about that, you know, a broader community center type thing and how this would fit. And I realize it's not the Steinberg family's intention to fund that or fund a part of that, but it creates this dialogue. So I think that that was positive, and that was most of it. And the other stuff, I guess, it reminds me that one thing, Barney, that they did come to us to request a name change, and we still have not voted that.
Yeah, that was in your report, I think, last time, Tim.
Last time, and,
Do we need to do that? Is that
I
our?
think we need to vote it to put it on the town meeting.
need to put it on a
Okay.
town meeting warrant for the spring.
Okay,
I should do that.
yeah. So we'll
They
just,
didn't ask me, but I remembered.
yeah, that makes sense. We'll just start building our list of what's to be on
Yeah, the
in
warrant.
the warrant book. All right, thank you, David. Anybody else have a liaison report? Okay,
6 minutes. Yeah. 3 minutes.
all right. Yeah, let's go ahead and look at we have I think we have 2 sets of minutes, is that right, Jen? Or is it just one? One, all right, well, let's take a look at that set of minutes. And
I
I'd
move
like
that
to
we
take
approve
thank you.
The regular meeting minutes of October 26, 2021 as presented.
Thank you. Luke seconds it. Is there any discussion?
Good job.
All right, well then let's take a vote on accepting those minutes as moved. All those in favor? Aye. All right, the minutes have been approved. Sign these, or do you want to pass them on? I'll pass them on. I'll come back to this.
You need to acknowledge the warrants.
Yeah. And then the warrants that are in there are ones that I signed, and, we don't do anything except just kind of point out that I signed those on behalf of the select board. Well, we got 5 more minutes. We are so efficient this evening. Tim, do you want to, offer, maybe take a look at some of the,
Sure.
I thought your town hall budget, we should save that for after, but
I can.
some of the other items in your report.
Sure. There's an amended engagement letter with Clifton Larson Allen, our independent auditors. We'll be increasing the amount for the audit to $38,750. There's about a $5,500 add to that because we received $400,000 in CARES money. We went over the limit for the single audit. The federal government audits every agency that receives more than $100,000 in federal aid, which now is us. So that's additional work for the auditors, and they asked if their agreement is amended for that. We'll probably be in that single audit category for a number of years going forward with ARPA and so forth. So if the board would vote to amend the engagement with the auditors, that would be great.
I move the board approve the amended engagement letter with CLA for the fiscal 21 audit year in the amount of $38,750.
Second?
Any discussion? All right, hearing none, all those in favor? Aye. Unanimously.
So far, we talked about the closeout of CARES program. Gary Davis was going to be on the Zoom call at 9 for this item. Do we want to hear from Gary, or do you want to
Sure.
move ahead with it? I can text him that he's not needed if he wants to buy
Probably appreciate that.
backhoe for the,
the
I know he's
backhoe. He
talking to
wants to
Luke
talk
and
about the backhoe.
Nathan. Yeah, about that. Maybe,
Do we need him on the call, Nathan?
I can give an update from what I know, and maybe Luke, you can.
yeah, I'll supplement as needed.
Okay, you've got 2 minutes.
Okay, 2 minutes. Okay, so, they want to buy another tractor, for the cemetery. Obviously, it could be used for other things, but, the primary, reason for it is for the cemetery. Their current tractor is really too big for the size of the cemetery as it is right now, so it's very, very hard for them to kind of get in around it. And they were going to ask for long-term tax money, but they've decided that they can fund it from the cemetery funds. So right now, they have a tractor on a verbal hold that was repossessed. And so we will get it for $20,000 less than we would if we were to say, no, let's, do something different. So we're saving $20,000 by doing it this way.
Add anything, Luke?
No, that was good.
Okay, great. So, do we need to make a motion then to approve that, or no, this is just by way of information, because it's already in his budget, right? It's already in
There are a
the
lot of money.
cemetery.
Yeah, I move that we approve $100,000
Okay.
of the, whatever the amount is. What is,
Yeah, I think.
I approve,
It's 100,000.
yeah, I move that we approve Gary's purchase of the tractor from the cemetery funds.
Second?
Any more discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, carries unanimously. Excellent.
Good use of funds.
Well done, well done. All right.
One more minute.
We have literally less than a minute, and so what I think I'm gonna do.
One more item on his thing.
Do you want to mention the holiday party briefly? And
Well, sure, I can,
so we
yeah, I can
know,
do it.
and we can all
Wouldn't
get
take
that on
very
our
long.
calendars.
The board sponsored the holiday party for the employees. Will be in this room on Thursday, December 9th, and we'll send out information on the invitations so that everyone can be here who wants to be here.
What time? It's lunch.
Probably
It's a lunch.
noon time or so.
Not a potluck.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right, it's usually
It's a Chinese, we'll
yeah.
provide a Chinese meal, correct?
Buffet, yes.
Buffet.
Yep, yeah, will be very popular. And then additionally, we heard from Ed Herwick at Ferns, and the tree lighting is going to be December 7th, Jen, Tuesday, December 7th. So, like this.
Right.
We will be meeting that night, because you'll see later in the report that we've changed the December schedule to meet on the 7th and the 21st instead of the 14th and the 28th.
but usually there's enough time.
Too much holiday
Oh.
pressure.
That's right.
Okay. So
All right.
All we got.
Excellent, thanks, Tim, and we'll come
Good.
back, and review the town hall budget.
Sure, yeah.
When we get there. Okay, great. Yeah, will Lisa let, Gary Davis know that, or Tim, do you want to do that? Let him know.
Yeah, I'll text him right now and let him know that he's.
Okay, great, thank you very much.
21st, okay.
All right, so we've now come to the point in the meeting when we're going to open the dangerous dog hearing. I'd like to read, first of all, just an explanation about the meeting. This is a hearing of the Select Board held pursuant to General Laws, Chapter 140, Section 157, and Section 14.6.7 of the town's general bylaws, for the purposes of determining whether the dog named Dexter of 81 Greystone Lane, Carlisle, Mass. 01741, is a dangerous dog or a nuisance dog, and in either case to determine the appropriate remedial action to be taken. Now, this hearing is going to be conducted following open meeting laws, which means that you need to be recognized by the chair to speak, and when you are recognized, if you're on a Zoom call, you can state your name and your address, or if you're here in person, you should come up to the podium and state your name and address. And for everyone that's going to offer testimony, I'm going to be asking you to be sworn in, and so just prepare yourself for that. I'll read the text when it's your time to come forward. We also have on our Zoom call Jenny Merrill, who is town counsel for us for dog hearings. Thank you, Jenny, for being here. And is Justin Neal on the call?
Neil is on the call. Yes.
Okay, excellent. Thank you, Justin Neal, Mr. Neal, for being with us tonight. And then I also see that Jean Delano is our animal control officer, and he is here in the audience. So I'm going to start with, the complainant is Justin Neal, but because the animal control officer was involved in the issuing of the quarantine notices, I'd like to have him come up first and just review that with us. And before you begin, Jean, I'd like you to say the following I, and then your name.
I, Jean Delano,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that the testimony I'm about to give
that the testimony I'm about to give
is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Thank you, Jean.
Good evening, Board. So we're here as a result of a complaint by Justin Neal. Of 80 Captain Wilson Lane in Carlisle. Animal control has been involved with a neighbor's behavior because of a neighbor's dog since July of 2020. First quarantine issued for the dog known as Dexter, owned by Joseph Topol of 81 Greystone Lane, was issued on the 6th of July, 2020. At the time, a notification of an animal bite was received from Emerson Emergency Department, where Mr. Neal was treated for left hand and wrist injuries caused by Dexter. The quarantine lasted for 10 days until the 14th of July, 2020. At the time, I know Mr. Neal was made aware of the process for bringing a complaint to the board, and no complaint was brought forward to my knowledge in 2020. In August of 2021, a report of a complaint of a bite was made to and relayed to me through the Carlisle Police Dispatch. As the animal control officer on duty at the time, I responded to quarantine Dexter a second time. I went to the residence at 81 Greystone Lane in Carlisle, spoke with Mr. Topol. Mr. Topol showed me a number of things that he had done to try to alleviate or to correct the previous problem, including installing a fence around his backyard. The dog had breached a fence and run into the street, at which point an encounter with Mr. Neal and his dogs resulted in one of his dogs being attacked and I believe receiving treatment for wounds. Quarantine number 2 for Dexter expired on the 26th of August of 2021. This week we received from the complainant photographic evidence, which is probably in your packet, which details puncture wounds. I'm not a doctor, but wounds to Mr. Neal's arm, and also wounds to his animal. Mr. Topol's animal, Dexter, is under a temporary restraining order until the outcome of this hearing. That kind of covers my input, my portion of the input here. Are there any questions? Thank you.
Temporary restraining order mean?
A temporary restraining order, I can, it may be in your packet, but it details first the reason for the restraining order, which would be incidents involving, the dog's misbehavior. And it specifies that the animal for the next 30 days, or until such time as the board has concluded its hearings on the matter, the animal has to be humanely restrained, provided that it's not chained to a tree or tethered or otherwise tied to an inanimate object, a tree, post, or building. In failure to follow this, will get you in trouble, basically. So that restraining order was issued on the 14th of September and remains in effect.
Thank you.
Hey, Luke.
Hi, how are you?
I just inspected your barn.
I know, yeah, no, in the past, thankfully.
Yeah.
So, no, just a couple of quick questions. So, the initial thing said, the initial email said that there was an electric fence, right? And then, but you said you just went to inspect a full fence? No, so
there may indeed, I don't recall whether there is an electric fence at the property.
Mhm.
I didn't see any flags or anything, but those don't have to be in existence. The homeowner had installed a new chain link fence of, I would say, regulation height after the initial incident in 2020.
Right.
He actually showed me an area of the fence where he believes the animal escaped. We discussed ways of remediating, putting this portion a little bit higher if necessary.
Yeah.
It happens to be on a big chunk of granite, so it'll be a little more difficult. But he seemed very open to whatever steps were necessary. So he's very responsive.
Okay, yeah, no, that was kind of because the initial email that we saw, said that he was going to fence, right? And so that has been done.
Yeah.
But he did get loose. But maybe there's a remedy for that as well. So.
And actually, I will say that since the complainant in this case is Justin Neal, he's going to provide a more full description of what happened.
Yeah, we should.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So we'll go on to that next. But thank you, Jean.
Thank you.
All right. Justin Neal, thank you for being here. I'd like to ask you please to raise your right hand and repeat after me. I
I, Justin Neal,
Do solemnly swear that the testimony I'm about to give
do solemnly swear that the testimony that I'm about to give
is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Thank you, Mr. Neal. And would you tell us what your street address is, please?
I live at 80 Captain Wilson Lane in Carlisle.
Okay, great. Thank you. Yeah, would you just walk us through? I know you wrote it out in your letter to me, but if you would walk us through what happened in these incidents.
Yeah, I actually have written it out as well. So, but good evening, everyone. I wanted to thank the members of the Select Board for taking the time to hear this complaint, and I hope not to take too much of your time tonight. It's a very difficult thing to take the action that we're pursuing today against our neighbors and friends, and we do this knowing that the relationship that we have with them will probably never be the same. However, this is not just a matter of 2 dog attacks, but the potential for a far more significant attack in the future. We live in Greystone Crossing, a housing development off Cross Street and made up of Trillium Way, Greystone Lane, and Captain Wilson Lane. This is a neighborhood with numerous small dogs and many children of middle school age and below. It's with these people in mind and the numerous people who walk with and without their dogs in our neighborhood, as well as our own peace of mind, that we take this path today. We've owned in Greystone Crossing since 2013, and we've walked our dogs on the roads and paths within the association since that time, often passing 81 Greystone multiple times during the day. On 2 occasions, July 4th, 2020 and August 16th, 2021, my dogs and I were violently and viciously attacked by the dog Dexter from 81 Greystone Lane, owned by the Toppols. Both incidents were reported to the Carlisle Police Department. On July 4th, 2020, we were out walking as normal, something that we used to do daily, often passing 81 on 4 or 5 occasions as we walked the loop in the neighborhood. On this particular day, we'd passed 81 Greystone once and had just passed the property for a second time, walking up Greystone Lane towards number 74, when the animal ran us down from behind and viciously attacked my dogs and I. We were walking, we were not running. We were approximately located at the red X on the picture provided in the original email, perhaps 100 yards past the driveway of number 81. I'd noticed the dog at the top of the driveway on the first time past, and it was still sitting there as we walked past the second time. It was sitting next to the Toppol's other dog, Willis. It was a cute scene, which is why I remember it so well. I didn't see the animal coming until it was only a few feet behind us. I turned, and like a missile, the animal was by me and trying to get the head of my chocolate lab into its mouth. Fortunately, he couldn't get a good grip, and he released to have another go, and that's when I was bitten. After what seemed like several minutes of battling with the animal, I was able to pull it off my dogs and drag it back to the Toppol's house. I was able to fight it off the dog and drag it back to its home, where Joe helped patch me up before I called my wife, and she took me to the ER. It's important to understand that this is a very strong, powerful animal. I'm 6'4" and 250 pounds. I'm a fairly strong guy, and I can look after myself. And although I was eventually able to get control of the animal at the cost of a visit to the doctor, this was a battle that was not easy for me to win. And, I sent pictures of the wounds that I received to the board. Both of my dogs were also bitten and required veterinary attention that day. Later in the afternoon on July 4th, Joe called round to see how we were doing. He told us that he believed that the dog needed to be in a home where there were no other animals around it and that it was not in the neighborhood. And at that time, he committed to have the animal rehomed. This would have been a satisfactory outcome for us. However, several days later, he informed us that we would not be honoring that commitment, and that they'd decided to keep the animal. They promised it would never be outside unleashed unless it was in their yard. which would be fenced as soon as possible. And they also committed never to walk the animal past our house. We're not overly happy with that, but we understand their position. And so we decided not to take the process any further, believing that the animal would be safely contained. And shortly thereafter, Joe installed a wire fence around the backyard of his property. On at least one occasion that I'm aware of in August 2021, the animal was walked past our property. Fortunately, our dogs were in the house at the time, and so there was no altercation. However, on Friday, August the 13th of 2021, I was driving up Cross Street and I saw the animal walking alone down the road. I called Joe to let him know that the dog was out. He was already aware and he was out looking for it. And he told me later that one of the kids had left the gate open and the dog had got out that way. With hindsight, we now know that he was mistaken about that, and that it had probably got out through the hole that it had dug under the fence. On August 16th, my dogs and I were walking in the neighborhood. This time we were a lot further up the road. We were outside number 106 Greystone Lane on their top driveway. Again, it's highlighted on one of the pictures that I sent to the board. I didn't see the dog coming, but I turned and saw it standing next to one of my dogs, sniffing it. Suddenly and without cause, it viciously attacked my dog, which is an 11-year-old black Labrador. So he's not the most vivacious of animals. I was able to pull the dog off. It's a Staffordshire Bull Terrier mix, so again, it's a big, powerful dog. And then with the assistance of one of the Topol's children who came out to help, the animal was returned to its house. The force of the attack and the subsequent melee caused my watch to be ripped from my wrist and the steel strap to be broken and some of the steel pieces to be bent. And I'm using that as just a demonstration of the force with which the attack was created and nothing, and for no other reason. The lab that took the brunt of the attack required treatment from the vet for bites, and that's shown in other pictures that I submitted to the board that Jean noted earlier, and those photographs were taken by the vet. My dogs defended themselves, and I understand that the attacking animal was also treated for bites. But both of these attacks were completely unprovoked. They took place away from the Topol's property, and they both resulted in injuries. I'm very concerned about what would have happened should my wife have been walking past rather than me, or one of the mothers with small children had been there. I don't believe that they could have fought off this animal, and the consequences could have been significantly more dire than they were on either of the two occasions when I was attacked. We're now no longer able to walk up Greystone Lane for fear of being attacked by the animal again. And so that's really the brunt of the complaint. But as I close, I would like to remind the board of the definition of what a dangerous dog is according to the Commonwealth under general laws. And the definition is that a dog either, one, without justification attacks a person or domestic animal causing physical injury or death, or two, behaves in a manner that is a reasonable person would believe possesses an unjustified imminent threat of physical injury or death to a person or to a domestic or owned animal. And I don't believe that there can be any doubt that this animal constitutes a danger under Section 1 of that definition. And I refer you again to the photographs that I submitted. I know that under section 157A, 1 through 4, the Commonwealth lists several circumstances under which the animal's behavior can be deemed not grossly disproportionate. And I don't want to read the entire passages of the law, but I would just state that none of those circumstances apply in this case. The animal attacked us. It wasn't protecting anything or anyone from attack. We were not in the process of committing a crime upon the personal property of the owner or the keeper of the dog. There was no taunting, battering, assaulting, injury, or otherwise provoking of the dog. It attacked us from behind and with no warning. We were not on their property at any time and therefore cannot have breached any enclosures, premises, or items listed under that section of the general law. I know the options of the board are limited, and I'm in no way asking for the dog to be removed or euthanized. I want to make sure that the animal is contained in such a way that Greystone Crossing remains a safe place for our neighbours and other members of our community to walk in the neighbourhood. And the fact that it's escaped from its fenced yard on 2 occasions within a week, and those are just the ones we know about, proves to me it cannot be safely contained by its current fenced yard. And I implore the board to do something to ensure that this cannot and does not happen in the future. And with that, I'd like to thank the board for their time.
Thank you, Mr. Neal. I think we should go ahead and hear other testimony, and then we can come back as a board if we have any specific questions. And just the way this hearing goes, Mr. Neal, is because we just went through this on another dog, so we're actually fairly familiar with it at this point, and we do all have the statute in front of us regarding the various things that you mentioned, is that we'll take whatever testimony people want to offer, and then we will close that part of the hearing, and then we as a board will deliberate here openly and first determine whether the dog is considered a nuisance or a dangerous dog, and then based on that, what remedies. So let me ask if anyone else is here that would like to offer testimony in this case. Tim, do you know if there's someone representing the Topals?
Neither Mr. Topol nor his attorney are on the call. And they know of the hearing because the attorney contacted us last week.
Okay.
They're aware of it, but they're not on the call.
All right. Is anyone else either here in the room or on the Zoom call that wants to offer any testimony at this time? Well, then let us open it up. Do we have any questions that we want to ask of Mr. Neal or anything further of Mr. Delano before we close the this portion of the hearing and then go on to our deliberations?
I just had one question. Do we know how old the dog is?
Let me see. Either.
3 years old. 3 years old, okay.
And another question is he neutered?
I don't know the answer to that, but It's the breed of Dexter?
Okay.
Dexter is a Staffordshire Terrier.
That should not influence our deliberation.
How big, I should say. How big is the dog? I'm not sure. I mean, Mr. Neal.
About how many pounds?
I'm sorry, I wasn't able to hear the question.
Oh, what would you guess the dog's weight is? How big a dog is it?
I'm a little uncomfortable guessing, but it's bigger than my Labrador. So I would say it's above 85 pounds.
Yeah. And Mr. Neal, I have just one quick question for you. So you said that the Topals had put up a wire fence, and is that the same as the sort of chain link fence you were describing, Mr. Delano? So you're describing the same fence?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And the fence has a gate, but Jean, if I understand correctly, you were saying there's a piece of granite right next to the fence, and so you think the dog may have been able to get on that and go over the fence?
We walk the fence line.
Yeah,
In the fence, the photography there goes up over boulders and natural, that up into
right.
the area is rather high. And goes along with it, but the owner assumes that that's where the dog, he thinks that's where the dog breathes.
Was able to actually, when you say breach it, go over it. Yeah, and then Mr. Neal, you had also mentioned that I think, am I right in that Mr. Topol Mr. Topol mentioned that he thought the dog had dug his way under the fence.
I can't comment to how it
Okay.
how it escaped. My understanding was that it had dug underneath, but it could have gone over the top.
Yeah, okay, all right. Anyone else have any sort of particular questions like that before we go into the our own deliberations?
I have one more.
Yeah.
Mr. Neal, hi, Justin. So in prior, the dog is, how old you said?
3.
So in the previous 2.5 years, your dogs are older, so you've had your 2 dogs and that dog have coexisted without incident until this summer? You walk the dog every day.
Until July 4th, 2020.
Last year, sorry, but in the 2 years precedent, Dexter was there, right?
Dexter was adopted when he was fully grown, as far as I'm aware.
So was that pretty recently relative to the July of 20?
I can't comment.
Well, what I mean is, were you walking your dogs for a...
Yes, we were aware of that dog being on that property and had seen the dog many times prior to the first attack.
Without incident?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
All right, any other questions? So, since there is no more testimony that people want to offer, are you hearing something, Tim?
No, I was just wondering if town council had any.
Oh, excuse me, yeah, Town Council, Jenny Merrill, do you have anything you want to offer at this point?
I don't think so. I think that all of the exhibits that I know of have already been noted in the testimony. So I don't think there's anything else you need to
Reference?
record at this point.
Okay. All right, so I'm going to close the public hearing, and then at this point, we as a board need to determine, first of all, whether this is a dangerous dog or a nuisance dog, and then we will need to render a decision about what remedies based on that. So do we need to, does anyone need to remember, to be reminded of the dangerous dog definition? We have it in our packet.
Yeah.
And we've had this before, so I guess I'll take comments then from anyone on the board about your.
Vote to close the hearing.
Oh, I do need to vote that?
Yeah, I
Okay,
think
first.
the board should vote that, and then
Okay,
I think those are great.
thanks. So may I have a motion to close the public hearing portion of this document?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you. So that portion of the hearing is closed. So let's discuss the definition of a dangerous dog. So just to quickly review, without justification, attacks a person or domestic animal causing physical injury or death. Do we think that that occurred in this situation?
Gee,
I think
what do you
pretty
think?
clear.
Yeah, no, I think it was clear that this is a dangerous dog and not just a nuisance dog.
And then the other condition is behaves in a manner that a reasonable person would believe poses an unjustified imminent threat of physical injury or death to a person or to a domestic or owned animal. Does anyone feel that we should not determined that this is a dangerous dog.
I have one question, I guess. These bites occurred in one of the incidents. Did the other one also result in injury?
No,
To the
according to
dog.
Mr. Neal's testimony, the dog received injuries in the second incident, and he was treated at a
So
vet.
both incidents resulted in injury to some extent. And the statute doesn't distinguish whether a dog bites dog or dog bites man.
Attacks a person or domestic animal. Yeah.
Thank you. No, that I know.
All right, well then I think,
We determined this dog, Dexter, to be a dangerous dog under Mass General Laws, Chapter 40, Section 136A.
Second?
any more discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, so Dexter's been determined to be a dangerous dog. Then if we continue down in our packets, you will see number 5 are the remedies. And so let's just remind ourselves, the first one is that the dog needs to be humanely restrained. And similar to with the, quarantine, with the temporary restraining order, it has to be in a humane way. Second is that the dog be confined, and these are not mutually exclusive. Second is the dog be confined to the premises of the keeper of the dog. And that means securely confined indoors or confined outdoors in a securely enclosed and locked pen or dog run area upon the premises of the owner or keeper. And that such pen or dog run shall have a secure roof. And if the enclosure has no floor secured to the sides shall be embedded into the ground for not less than 2 feet. And the dog must have a house and proper shelter. The third remedy is that when the dog is removed from the premises, the dog shall be securely and humanely muzzled and restrained with a chain or some other tethering device, a leash, for example, having a minimum tensile strength of 300 pounds and not exceeding 3 feet in length. And the fourth remedy is that the owner or keeper of the dog provide to the licensing authority or animal control officer information about the dog to allow it to be identified throughout its lifetime, including but not limited to photographs, videos, vet exams, tattooing, or microchip implantations, or any other such forms of identification.
I'll go ahead and kick it off. I think in this case, 1, 2, 3, and 4 are all things I would like to see being done, especially in light of the fact that the dog has been able to get out of the yard. I think this needs to be, he needs to be confined in an area that has a roof and a floor in it. And I don't think that any of the other remedies are so extreme that they shouldn't be asked for.
Yeah, my only question really is the insurance. We didn't, maybe it was our error, but we didn't apply that last time.
You don't have insurance
Yeah,
on this one.
and
The
it's
dog
not,
does have even more incidents.
Yeah. I have a question for you, Jenny. So that's not listed here.
Well, you have to go to the other document. That was another question. The complete remedy is farther down in the packet. I don't know why that.
Beyond number 5?
I don't know why that has an excerpted remedy.
Because the previous dog hearing had the
Go
additional.
down, further down. Let's see.
I don't
Below
have
Justin
anything.
Neal's.
Yeah, below all of it.
Below all of that?
Page 22.
Something got cut off of that stuff above.
Oh.
The full remedy,
Oh, okay.
the full remedies are.
Okay, well, I guess I will still stand by what I said.
Okay, here are the
Um,
remedies, I see.
Okay,
okay,
and then
so-
the 6.
Number 4
Okay,
here
yes,
is
all right.
that the owner or keeper of the dog provide proof of insurance in amount not less than 100,000, insuring the owner or keeper against any claim, loss, damage, or injury to persons. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but that's number 4.
Information, and then number
Yeah,
6 is
and,
new also.
6 is what we've already read about the restraint. Oh, no, sorry, 6 is evidence from the veterinarian. That unless an owner or keeper of the dog provides evidence that a veterinarian is of the opinion that the dog is unfit for alterations because of a medical condition, the owner or the keeper of the dog shall cause the dog to be altered. So that would, since we don't know that for sure,
I
that
would
could
also
be
want to see
something
6.
we
then.
could include as a remedy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, of course, number 7 is that the dog be humanely euthanized.
So I will go back and say, I would propose that we use remedy 1, that he's restrained humanely, 2, that he is to be confined to the premises, and that if he's outside, he needs to be in a pen. 3, that when he's removed from the premises, he has to be muzzled and kept on a short and very strong leash. 4, no. 5, that the dog owner provides us with information for how he can be identified. And that 6, because we do not know whether he's been altered or not, that we get evidence from a veterinarian regarding his opinion of the dog being fit or unfit for alteration because of a medical issue.
Or we ask for evidence that it has been,
Or we ask for evidence that he's been altered. Yeah.
and if not, then.
Well, yeah.
Right. All right, any comments on the proposal on the floor?
I have one comment about number 2, the confining to the premises.
Yeah.
The dog is 3 years old, and that's pretty hard on the dog, and makes it very, very hard for them to train the dog in a way to possibly prevent this from happening again, because what this means is they cannot take the dog off the property ever. As we
Unless
discussed
it's on a
last time, which is
leash
why
or
we did
muzzle.
not put it in the last one.
Yeah.
Right? No, not unless it's on a muzzle. It cannot leave the property.
No, that's not what number
that's
2
what-
says.
I'm sorry, Jenny, that's what you stated last time.
Am I muted? No, I'm not muted. Yeah, we did discuss this last time, and the fact that number 2 and number 3 seem to be in conflict with each other. Is it 2 and 3?
Yeah.
So I believe that last time you said that for number 2, it means that the dog cannot be taken off the property, and if it has to see the vet or something, the vet has to go to the dog.
A strict reading of number 2 supports that.
And so I think that's why we chose not to do it last time. And so I think that
Yeah.
would make it very, very hard for them to affect a change in the dog.
I agree with that.
Joseph Topo has put up a fence. I think he just needs to make sure, I don't know, maybe manhole the fence. Maybe there's two gates on that fence so that, if one is left open, that there's another one, so the dog can't sneak by them. So we're not here to construct it.
Right.
But I just think that I think that number 2 is I totally understand the fear of walking around there. I would be very fearful walking around there, walking my dog. And they need to make sure that the dog cannot get out. But I think the idea of the dog can never leave the premise for any reason is, on a 3-year-old dog, is going to make it very hard for that dog. For us to end up with a happy solution for the dog.
Well, maybe it's up to the owner to be coming up with a happy solution to that.
Well, that's the question, maybe for Jean, I agree with Nathan, and if we were to set aside 2 and focus on 1 and 3, so 3 is pretty self-explanatory, but 1, like the situation you encountered where there was a rock and maybe it could be a launching pad, I presume to comply with 1, it has to be, not easy to breach, right? So it would be incumbent on the topos to build up that fence and move it around the rock or do other things to make sure that the remedy is effective, right? Maybe it doesn't state it that way, right? That seems to be implied, right?
So Jenny, can we, are we only allowed to pick one of these, the language that's listed here, those are the only things that we can include in our remedies. We can't, could we add a sort of a rider or whatever that the existing fence be what's the right, reinforced to make it impossible for the dog to go over the fence, and if necessary to, you know, put in a second gate if the gate gets left open. So, you know, the language we'd have to figure out, but is it possible for us to add something more specific like that to basically what's listed? I guess there really isn't anything about just a fence, is there?
Right. So I don't know that you
Yeah.
can you could add something to the order itself, but I think, you know, there's a you're going to have a determination, and I think it's part of your determination. You can make clear that the fence situation that they have now, you know, you do not consider to meet the requirement that the dog be humanely restrained. I mean, if the dog is, if you issue an order saying that the dog must be humanely restrained, and when off the premises in a muzzle, you know, and the dog gets out, then clearly they weren't humanely restrained, you know, in compliance with the order. And I think that we could put something in the order that states that as a you know, as part of your determinations.
Yeah, because I think we, you know, start getting ourselves into trouble if we start making suggestions. Right?
Yeah.
It's on them, right? And
Yeah.
ultimately, if they don't comply, then they're back, and then the remedies are more extreme.
Exactly.
Right.
I think it is fair to say, but we don't feel like what you have now clearly is not adequate.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
I need to make sure there is no way for that dog to get out.
So but you bring up another point, which does bother me about the statute, and there's probably no remedy, but I am personally a big fan of dog training. It's worked for my dogs. And it's great but I don't know, we can recommend, but I mean, it's too bad that a program of dog training is not one of the remedies.
Mm-hmm.
The young dogs can be trained. Right. I don't know what to do with that. Can we make a suggestion or not? Not in the statute, but can one make a recommendation that we strongly urge the owner to enroll the dog in some kind of training program?
You could put something in the order, if it's not, as long as you're not ordering them to do that. I think that you're
Can't order it.
put that in there somewhere. But I agree with you, you know, that the statute seems to lay out some options that are, you know, not adequate.
Okay, so then in our wording, we want to say that we don't consider that the conditions under which they've been keeping the dog, you know, up until now has been the fits our definition of humanely restrained.
Well, I think
Or he's not restrained.
Because he's not restrained.
Right.
And that, you know.
but it sounds, from what I'm hearing from you,
Okay.
Jenny, we
Back to one,
determine the specific remedies that we want to apply in this case, and then we can add the determination that we find the current way that the dog is being restrained is inadequate.
Right.
Yeah, I think it's
And
just
then second, we strongly recommend that the owner of the dog consider dog training or something like that. Is that reasonable? Okay.
But I also want a
Jenny will
muzzle.
be the one who,
A muzzle,
will
yeah.
be writing this up for us, right? So it's number 1,
Number
and
1,
it's number 3,
Yeah.
and number 4.
and number 5.
Oh, wait, 4 is
We didn't
the,
cover 4.
insurance. We didn't, I
Okay,
didn't.
sorry.
I don't
all
see
right.
the use of that, frankly. But number 5,
Well, let's go back and discuss the insurance for a minute, because some folks may feel differently. Luke?
Yeah, no, my only comment with the insurance is that it almost kind of puts the ball in somebody else's court, right? And if, you know, we've determined it to be a dangerous dog, and they can no longer insure their property because of the dog, it kind of solves the problem, right? But,
yeah.
you know, I mean, ultimately, if there's gonna be a lawsuit, there's gonna be a lawsuit, right? Somebody's gonna go after them, but, yeah, I mean, I don't see why we wouldn't necessarily require it. But, I mean, I guess I can see it both ways, but, I don't know, why
I
not?
thought you were making an argument that we wouldn't include it. You were making an argument that we would?
We would.
Yeah, we would, yeah. We would, yeah.
Include the insurance
Yeah, why
requirement.
wouldn't we?
Well, the only reason not to me, is precedent that we didn't do it last time. Maybe that was our error, I admit it.
Yeah, sorry, like.
Had I been here last. No, but I just, like, I don't see why we wouldn't. You know, I mean, we wanna be strong about this, right? And ultimately, you know,
Well-
they've tried to comply, right, which is,
Yeah,
you know, I think appreciated and acknowledged, right, but it wasn't enough, and.
But
and
you're
now we're in this
imposing,
situation.
I mean, let me advocate the other side, just as a pro forma, as a thought piece. So, the owners, if the owners wanna keep, and this would be any dog in this dog rearing world, they wanna keep their pet, which is generally what owners wanna do. They have to go to considerable expense to construct a pen, they've gotta do a bunch of things.
Well, we're not requiring the thing.
I mean, well, the fencing, you know, they gotta do things, and that's reasonable to have them do things. The minute they go for, again, this is the limit of the statute, the minute they go for that kind of insurance with this kind of incident, their core homeowners insurance, so you're imposing a significant monetary penalty on top of all the other stuff that actually doesn't do anything to drive dog behavior. It's just a penalty, basically. And, I mean, if they get injured and they don't have insurance, they're gonna fork over money. So I don't understand the value of this one, other than a monetary penalty on the people. And I guess my personal feeling is, maybe the last time I might have thought about it more, I might have thought that was a better idea, but I don't see the need. I would rather they took that money and they spent it on some dog training. They're gonna spend thousands of dollars more on their homeowners insurance every single year from that one, as long as they have that. That's how insurance works.
But maybe it forces them to think twice before they.
Yeah, but are we, you know, what are we trying to do? I mean, we're trying to make sure that it doesn't happen again.
Right.
This has nothing to do with not happening.
No, I disagree with that.
Okay, so anyway,
Yeah, I
that's,
mean,
that's my position.
Yeah, I mean, you know, and ultimately, their monetary cost, right, their cost isn't really our concern.
I know, but if they don't get the insurance, look, they live on Captain whatever lane, we know the houses that if they don't get insurance, they're gonna fork over even more. So us prescribing insurance, I don't see it.
all right, we'll hear from others on that point.
Could I win? Oh, okay. Actually, it's better people didn't hear that tirade.
We have 11 minutes if we want to try to conclude by 8:30.
Yeah.
But not to rush us, but Nathan, did you want to comment on the insurance question?
Well, I mean, I honestly, they don't want to hear me either. I do see both parts. I do also think that there's a precedent thing. While Luke wasn't here last time, I think that there is a precedent thing that I worry about. I don't understand, and maybe Jenny can tell us, like, what is the intent of having this in here as a remedy? Is it in case there's a dog owner who doesn't have the resources to pay for somebody who may get injured by their dog, or?
You know, I think it's just in here as a way for, yeah, folks who have been bit by the dog to be able to get compensated for it if they're unsuccessful getting compensated through the owner themselves.
Okay, or the owner's home insurance, right?
Or through the homeowner, yes.
So I get where this could help if somebody was bit, and maybe it makes it easier to get the funds to, to recoup the injury costs or a suit. I don't see how this helps change the behavior of the dog. I guess I need to make, so I don't know. I worry about the precedent. I don't understand what it does for, for the dog, but I certainly understand that it makes it easier for somebody to recover the money.
I'd like to recognize Tim, if I might, our town administrator.
Yeah, thank
Tim
you,
Goddard.
Madam Chair. The Topals aren't here with their attorney. They do have a letter from the town stating that the hearing was at 8:30. I'm not aware of how that, evidently that's a typographical error.
Okay.
I guess I'd ask town council where the hearing is closed. What is our remedy at this point? That the notice was effective in some respect to the dog owners.
You can, I think you can reopen it.
Say it again, Jenny.
I think you can reopen the hearing. You haven't made a
Reopen the
decision.
hearing. Okay, excuse me, hang on one second. I'm the chair of the board, and our rules are that you need to be recognized by the chair if you want to speak, but we are considering reopening the hearing, so just hold on, okay? And we'll get to that shortly, I think. So are we comfortable reopening the hearing?
Of course.
Yes, okay. So I think I need a formal motion to
I
do
move
that.
we reopen the hearing.
Is there a second? All right, any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Great, thank you. So I would like to recognize the Topol family, and I understand you have legal counsel here with you. So who would like to offer testimony? And the way we'd like to do this is to have you come up to the podium so you can be heard by those that are joining us remotely, and state your name, and in your case, sir, if you tell us your law firm and that you're representing the Topals. Thanks.
Thank you. All right, good evening. We're starting early. My name is Jeremy Cohen. My law firm is Boston Dog Lawyers, and I represent the Topals. So now,
excuse me, Jeremy, can you say that again? Jeremy, what's your last name?
Cohen, and I've already notified the town that I'm involved.
Okay,
and
great.
My law firm is Boston Dog Lawyers.
Thank you.
So I have a notice for 8:30. I also got it direct from the town that the notice was 8:30. My clients had a notice for 8:30. Have you already taken testimony in this matter?
We have.
And why is that?
Well, because we had the
hearing
notice.
was on the agenda for 7:30.
Yeah, we had posted it on our.
I do acknowledge the letter that Mr. Topol has says 8:30, but.
I see. So that was an error. Yeah,
that was
you know,
an error.
by open meeting law, we post our agendas within 48 business hours before the meeting, and it was posted to begin at 7:30. So I did know, because Mr. Goddard had told me that there was legal representation that would join us. But I guess there's been a tremendous misunderstanding about the start time of the hearing.
So I just have a few questions.
Yeah.
Well, there's no confusion on my part, right? At the start of the hearing, because I got the letter direct from the town. A guy named Stoddard.
You think Goddard, maybe? That's Mr. Tim Goddard here, our town administrator.
So
yes,
we've emailed. Then, so my question is, did anybody provide testimony from?
Yes, we heard from our animal control officer, Mr. Gene Delano, who's behind you, and from Justin Neal, who's the complainant, and he offered his testimony remotely.
Okay, so,
So we've taken that testimony, and then we asked for additional testimony, and there was none, so then we closed the hearing
okay,
and have started our deliberations.
okay,
We had already, I'll just tell you this directly, we had already concluded that after our deliberations and from the testimony we heard that this was a dangerous dog, and we were beginning to discuss the remedies according to the state statute.
okay. Thank you for that information. So how are you going to fix this so that we have a fair hearing, so that I know what Mr. Neal, if he's still on, had to say? Because this isn't fair, this isn't right. I'm here to make sure that we do it the right way and you get to the right decision the right way. So you made a mistake. How are you going to fix this?
You know what, excuse me.
No.
I want to make it very clear to you that we have no interest in being unfair to anyone.
Okay,
All right, and it would be much more helpful if we approach this cooperatively,
Okay.
because our job
okay,
is to be responsible to both the dog owners and to the complainant. So what I suggest is, while it's unfortunate, because I know people have spent time to try to be here, as I think what we need to do is reschedule the hearing for another date, yeah, because we can't ask, Mr. Neal is no longer on the call, and we have an agenda that we've already posted for tonight.
okay,
And so I apologize. I know it's very inconvenient, but I think in order to be fair to you, as you're asking, and fair to the previous people that have offered testimony, that's the best way we should approach it.
okay. Let me think about this
Excuse
for
me
1
one second. Excuse me 1 second. I just want to check in with the rest of the board. Does anybody have a different opinion about that? Or Ms. Merrill, who is our town council, is also on the call. Do you have a different suggestion for how we should approach this, or does it make sense to reschedule the hearing?
I think whatever suits the board. I mean, you can also provide the testimony that's been provided is actually was the same that was in writing, I think, to the board.
Provided
But
that-
whatever, if whatever seems most fair to all parties is.
So just to make it clear to everyone, so the letter that we received, or the board received from Mr. Neal, you have a copy of that too, the email correspondence he sent to the select board? Yeah. Yeah, okay. And that is the testimony that then he offered publicly this evening. I think you had some interaction with the animal control officer, Mr. Delano. Yeah. And what he did is he reviewed the 2 incidents and the quarantine notices that were issued, and then the temporary restraining order that was issued. So there was no other testimony offered by another party.
okay.
So that's what we've heard. And if you are comfortable with us reopening the hearing and then offering your testimony, then we'll close the hearing. We may or may not be able to do our deliberations tonight, but we could at least hear your testimony.
Okay.
Would that be acceptable? Does that work for?
I'm going to meet with my folks outside just for 2 minutes, not going to hold you up. So a couple of questions. Are you saying that he read off his email? Oh, he read it.
Well, it was, I mean, it was virtually the same as his email.
Okay.
He offered.
You could read along.
Okay.
As he was talking, you could read along. It was
Right.
almost word for word.
He did say something at the beginning, which probably would have been good for you all to hear, about how difficult this was to make this statement, and that he knew it was going to be,
Okay.
probably affect the relationship that he had with you all, where you were living on the same street. And he was really sorry about that.
So
So
did he offer any pictures, any bills?
no bills, but we do have pictures, which I think you may have seen as well. The pictures of the bites to his hand and then to his dogs, and then the notification of the Emerson Hospital visit. And who is it that you have with you? Is this an associate? Leah Kim,
So
okay,
just a
hi.
Couple of questions for the board. Is his testimony recorded?
Yes, it is.
And if we reopen and we go, then is he going to complain that he didn't get I mean, it's not like he can ask questions of us, right? So,
No, but he could come back and offer additional testimony.
Is on the call.
Oh, he is on the call.
He is on the call.
Oh, okay.
my concern is through the board that I wasn't, I mean, I understand I can't cross-examine him, but I wasn't able to ask the board to pursue any questions with him that I might have had relative to his testimony. So how about if we take a short break? I talk to my clients and we'll come back in.
Yeah,
Okay,
I just
thank
want to
you.
clarify, and maybe, Ms. Merrill, you could respond. I don't believe that the hearing is intended for you to have an opportunity to cross-examine, as you said just now, someone else offering testimony. Is that correct?
That's right, but he mentioned that he might ask you to ask him questions.
Yes, and
Yeah.
that's acceptable.
Mhm.
Okay, good. Just wanted that to be clear.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you. We'll be right back.
sure. Now, what time was the
I think we just have to wait for the
Yeah.
public hearing.
governance task
The letter
force?
went out today.
You know what?
Yeah, you see that?
We can't take up more than public hearing right now.
I know we are, I was just gonna say that we could let Rebecca Vieira know.
Oh,
Yeah, so, could you let Rebecca Vieira know?
She's on the call. Rebecca's on the call.
Okay, before you say anything, let's see if they decide
Yeah.
they want to offer their testimony, and if they do, then I think we should ask them.
Miss Arnold, this is Justin.
Yeah, hi,
I
Mr.
would-
Neal.
I would really appreciate it if I didn't have to go through the giving testimony again,
Yes.
although
Yeah,
I'm,
but-
you know, since it's been recorded. However,
Yes.
you know, I'm open to answering questions, but
Okay,
this,
Thank
as
you.
as I pointed out at the beginning of this experience, this is not something that I've undertaken lightly, and I don't really want to go through it again.
yes, we understand. Thank you. Thank you. And thank you for being back on the call. We're just taking a pause now while the Topos Council and the Topos talk, and they'll be back shortly.
So, Barney, we've cleared almost.
On our agenda, except for the budget for,
Yeah, so I mean,
it's now,
this is only the last time.
8:33.
So we're not doing town governance task force?
I'm sorry, just to butt in one more time. The testimony I gave today was not exactly what was in the email, and I'm prepared, and I'm very happy to give you the written document that I read from.
Okay, that'd be helpful. But again, since it's been recorded, we have that as well. But that would be helpful then, if you want to just send that electronically to Tim Goddard.
I will email it to Tim right now.
Thank you. Don't you think, though, it makes sense to put off the governance task force and go ahead and do Tim's budget, or should we? Yeah. Oh, I should swear him in too, right?
Yes.
Okay, anyway, I just wanted to say hello, and I'm sorry about the mix-up. Yeah. Is he gonna come? Okay, great, thanks. And are you thinking that just your lawyer will will offer testimony, or is either one of you planning to say something?
Yeah, I probably.
Okay. Yeah, no problem. So just, we'll ask you to come up and say your name and address, and then also I need to have you take an oath and I'll do the same thing with your lawyer when he comes back in, which we've done with everybody that offered testimony.
You want to say anything to Rebecca? She's on the call.
Okay, yes, I will. Rebecca, hi, this is Barney Arnold. There you are. Hi, Rebecca.
Hi.
This is Rebecca Briera, who's the chair of the Town Governance Task Force. Rebecca, we're thinking that and I apologize for this, but I don't know how long you've been listening, but I think we're going to run longer than planned. We may not get to your part of the agenda until 9 o'clock or so. We're thinking would you prefer to just wait and have the discussion with us then, or would you prefer to come back we could schedule it for our next select board meeting in 2 weeks?
Let's hold on. Let's see, hold on one second. Let me look at the agenda.
Yeah, we've already covered most of the other things on the agenda, so we would just have you make your presentation and we'd have a brief discussion after this hearing ends.
If you don't feel that it would be too much time going by to have it happen in 2 weeks, then that probably would be better for me personally. I have a 6-year-old that I have to put to bed, so it's kind of getting into that time.
Yes, yeah, that's no problem at all.
Okay.
So why don't we plan on doing that? Again, my apologies about tonight, but we appreciate your willingness to come back.
No, that's fine. And yeah, thank you very much for the invite, and we will talk then in 2 weeks.
Okay, good. Thanks a lot.
All right, take care.
Okay, so have we voted to reopen the hearing? Did we finish that?
I thought we did, but I can do it again.
Hold on a second. Did we? But wait, don't we have to reopen the hearing first?
You did do that.
We did do that.
That's what I thought.
Okay, I thought we did as well. All right. So, Mr. Levin, I need to ask you to, sorry, Cohen, my apologies. I need to ask you to to be sworn in. And you probably know this, but it's I, and your name, promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Okay, so a couple of things. I'm not a witness, so I can't be sworn in. The lawyers are not sworn in at these hearings. And I'm not going to be converted to a witness because that would disqualify me down the road if we had to go to court. Your counsel knows that. Then,
excuse me, let me just confirm that with our counsel. Thanks. Is that correct, Ms.
Yeah,
Carroll?
that's fine. Yes.
Okay. All right.
but to that end, we will put on our part of the hearing this evening after talking to my clients. And to do that, the plan is to give you a brief overview. At the same time, I just have to note for the record that our letter said 8:30 and you started at 7:30. But the intent's not to appeal, it's to get this done tonight, to show you the evidence we have. So if we can go right into, if you want to swear witnesses who will come up, but I'm just going to give a brief opening statement.
Yeah, that'd be fine, to go ahead and offer your statement. I mentioned to the Topos while you're out of the room that if they wanted to make, offer testimony, they could then follow you.
All right. Thank you. Not every board would respond this way, so sometimes you have to come on strong to make sure that the hearing is held right. I appreciate you doing that. So I'm here to represent the Topos because I've known them for a long time. I've known Joe for a long time, and I've had a chance to look at everything that you've had a chance to look at, plus more that I'll share with you. So I understand that you may have already come to a conclusion based on one side of the evidence of why you have a dangerous dog here. But by the time we're done, I think this should be dismissed. And I'm going to show you why. At the worst, this dog is a nuisance. And what we have are two incidents where Justin says that in the first incident, you'll hear from our folks who, our dog got out, okay? But Justin, he walks past this house, twice a day for the last, 2.5 years at least, since Dexter's been with us. And the facts do not support a dangerous dog finding. Let's just go right there. This dog, you may have been told that this dog has bitten humans twice. So we see in the record that he says bites to humans and people. There was no human aggression
Well, hold on.
to this.
Let me just clarify something. What Mr. Neal offered in his testimony was that he had been bitten, and that's what the pictures show. This is during one incident, and his dog was bitten during that same incident, and then the second incident, his dog was bitten and requiring, care by a vet. So let's just see, be helpful, I think, if you would just walk through
Okay.
what you want to offer as, what you think happened and why
But you
you
can
think
see-
it's not a dangerous dog.
You can see my sense of a disadvantage because here I'm trying to respond to what he said, but
Well,
I'll
again,
try to
we
keep
could-
it to what we
could do
want
it
to say.
differently, and close the
This
hearing
works.
and, all right, so let's move ahead then.
So there's been no human aggression here. In either of the incidents, a human was never the intended target. And we see that in the puncture that is on his hand. Both incidents are isolated to one dog that belongs to Mr. Neal. And my clients have been compliant with the restraining orders that have been put in place. And you've never heard a previous complaint about Dexter, and you've never heard any other complaints since the restraining orders have been put in. It's all targeted to this one owner and his dogs. And these were not attacks. In reading the statement that these were two vicious attacks, first off, neither your bylaw nor the state law defines the word vicious. So however Mr. Neal chooses to define the word, that definition is not appropriate here. These were approaches. These were not attacks. Again, you're hearing from somebody who's a pet owner, but he's not in a position to tell you the scope of these bites. In the first instance, to break up a dog fight, he put his hand in the dog's mouth. He told that to my client. So our dog approaches his dog, and there's an incident, but he puts his hand in our dog's mouth to get his dog free. So amazingly, Dexter doesn't chomp on his hand. He doesn't bite his hand. He cuts his hand when he's withdrawing his hand from Dexter's mouth. So here's Dexter. If he could talk right now, he'd say, wait a second. He's going to blame me for that? He's going to say that I was bit? Because it wasn't a dog bite. And when you decide to impose yourself, and pet owners do this, it's wrong, but to break up a dog fight, that's an incidental bite. That is not a sign of aggression, and that wasn't a bite. If it was a bite, we would see on both sides of his hand, if his hand was in his mouth, we'd see teeth marks on both sides. This was not a bite.
Well, again, that's, we're not trying to take medical testimony here, so I think you should just continue with your points about what else you think happened or how you're interpreting what happened.
Then, his testimony, Justice, is that he dragged Dexter and his two dogs up to my client's house, yet this dangerous dog didn't bite him, didn't bite his other dogs. Somehow his other dogs didn't attack our dog, and he was treated by Mr. Topol. In that instance, if I'm contending, if Justin responds differently, if he doesn't put his hand in the dog's mouth, this whole thing doesn't happen. This was not a dog bite of any value. What was the vet bill? Less than $100. I mean, Justin complained that he was in a hospital for an afternoon. If you're bitten by a dangerous dog, an afternoon, you're going to be there overnight. Okay, so again, I'm concerned that there really weren't pictures provided to me from incident one or bills. So this is the first I'm seeing of his hand, I believe. So I had asked in advance that there be no surprises, that I have everything in advance to review it, because I would have a bite expert have looked at that picture to tell me exactly what happened. So my concern is he's on Zoom, which means you had these already, and I haven't got a chance to look at them, but I'll move on.
Are you saying you want to continue, or are you saying you want to go forward now? Well, if you keep throwing it out there as that it's unfair.
Yeah, so we're more than happy to start over again. I mean, I wouldn't say we're more than happy, but we are very willing to do that. And while I know it would be difficult for Mr. Neal as well as yourselves to come back, we are more than happy to do that. it's not going to be very productive to go through.
Yeah, and they
You're
just,
saying the whole time, well, I haven't had a chance to do this
Okay.
or
We
that,
either need
and
to
I
move
didn't,
past that, or we need to reset,
yeah.
you know?
I would like to reset. Okay? Because I can see
Yeah.
my attitude is just gonna be, I didn't see
Yeah,
this,
I
so you're right. So how about
Right,
if
so-
we
Or we
move
want to
to,
get to a
Yes.
good solution for everybody, okay?
Let's-
So we just
thank
have
you.
to have the right, you
Okay.
know, let's have the right approach.
okay,
Yeah, so we can put this on our agenda for 2 weeks from now, I believe, Tim.
We'll all agree right now as to what time.
Yeah, and so,
We shut a tax classification hearing that's been advertised already for 7:30, so I wouldn't,
Let's not make it 7:30, that didn't work out well.
yeah, let's,
so,
8 o'clock would be safe, or 8:30 would be safe.
okay,
But we can't do 7:30 because it's already booked.
yeah, so we have already scheduled a tax classification hearing for 7:30 in 2 weeks, but what if we, you're confident that we could say 8 o'clock and that would work?
I am confident.
Okay, so,
Before you,
excuse me, Nathan? Oh, okay, so if that
Can I
works.
give a suggestion that might work? Excuse me.
Yes.
You
yes.
could continue the hearing and allow, which would allow the Topals and their attorney to, review the video of the testimony and maybe reduce, the amount of time spent duplicating that.
That would be.
That would,
Yeah, would that work for you?
yes, that'd be great.
Okay,
Thank you.
yeah,
that.
good suggestion, Ms. Merrill, thank you. All right, so we will make a motion to continue this hearing to November 23rd at 8 PM, back in the same room. Mr. Neal, I know you're still on the call. Is that acceptable to you to return? And again, we'll make sure that the recording of your testimony is made available to the Topals and their lawyer, and as well as the pictures.
I'm not sure whether I'm available at that time, but I do want to point out that I am not on trial here, and I feel already as though this gentleman is trying to make me out to be untruthful. And not only that, but I feel as though I'm being attacked. So I think that the gentleman's line of approach is very inappropriate for this particular hearing, as opposed to trial.
Yeah, well, let me just step in here as the chair and ask that we not discuss this particular thing further. Mr. Neal, why don't you notify Mr. Goddard, our town administrator, as soon as you can about your availability for the 23rd.
or you can push it to
And we could push it into December if we needed to. Now, that does mean that the restraining order stays in place until we do have the dog hearing, which I understand, adds quite a bit of time. But so that's what I guess we have to decide. Do we have to decide tonight? Yeah, we have to continue the hearing to a specific day, right?
I move that we continue the hearing to November 23rd at 8 o'clock. Continue it there if we have to.
Okay, and we can
Is the
continue.
understanding, I'm not following that. So if Mr. Neal at a later date determines he can't attend, can we
Well, we
not
have his-
move, does the Topals and their attorney have to show up just for the purpose of being told to show up yet again?
Not if we agree to it all.
Well, I know, but I'm trying to understand the envelope of what we have available to us. We cannot schedule this, we have to schedule the hearing in a public meeting?
Yes.
Yeah, because it's being continued.
So again, I gotta ask the question. If sometime between now and next time, Mr. Neal determines he cannot attend that meeting, what do we do
Hopefully,
table on that day?
hopefully he determines that he cannot come in enough time to notify us so that we can notify the other parties, and that we then open and close or opening
Opening
and
and
continue.
yeah.
Continue the
Meeting
hearing
at
to the
another
following.
time that would then be mutually
Okay.
acceptable.
Okay, yeah.
So, is everybody following that? So if it turns out that Mr. Neal can't make it on the 23rd, and we know ahead of time, then what will happen is we'll let you know, and then when it comes to that point on our agenda, we will just continue the hearing to the next available select board meeting.
May I ask, is there a time by which he can let you know so we would know?
I think that would be,
Yeah.
Mr. Neal is
ask
okay.
Mr. Neal, if he knows when he can let us know.
Yeah, Mr. Neal, is it possible to let us know in, say, the next couple of days?
I'll try and confirm it to you this week.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I appreciate that. All right, so that's what we're gonna do. We'll.
We have a motion on the table. have
Yeah,
to
we,
vote.
have we put it, you put a motion on the
Put a motion on the
table?
table.
We've got a second? All right, any more discussion? All right, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No, all right, so that's the plan. We will continue this hearing to November 23rd at 8 PM. Thank you all. Good night. Yes, you may take a you can take a copy of those.
Any of those.
Yep. Yep, and this was the other piece we were given here. That's the other thing we were given right there.
This is the complete packet as it was given to us.
Yeah.
Same order.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Good night.
Good night, guys.
All right. So,
Oh, thank you.
Dinner.
I don't get angry.
what happened to the rest of us?
First.
All right, well, let's just, roll our shoulders a bit and,
Yeah, I can,
stretch a little bit, and now it's, of course,
now we have too much time.
finish. Well, let's
plenty of
finish
time, all right,
We're
it's
gonna have a
10 of
long
9.
We could say
How about
goodnight
governance?
to Jenny as
Yeah,
well.
Jenny, thank you so much for being here, and.
You're welcome.
I hope
See
you
you in
can
2
be
weeks.
back on the 23rd.
Yep. I think, are you guys doing cable then anyway?
Oh,
Yeah, yes, what do you mean,
Yeah.
but what do you mean?
Oh, because I would already be there
People
anyway,
need
so
assessment.
this is just gonna add to my evening.
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
It's gonna be good news to miss.
Just have a long evening with us.
And I leave
Yeah.
early for things.
I enjoy it.
okay,
right.
thank you very much.
Talk with you soon. Bye-bye.
All right, good night.
Should we, Madam Chair, should we segue into the motional calendar for the next meeting, because I don't know how,
No,
other
we're
things
gonna,
are gonna
I
have to
think
go
we're
away.
gonna look at Tim's
isn't
budget.
that part of his, right? We're on
What do you
calendar
have?
now, you don't wanna take
What do
it
you
now?
say, calendar, what do you?
I'm saying the agenda, since it's.
Oh, yeah, we're going to the town administrator's part of his
Right.
report that he didn't give
Right,
yet.
so I'm
His
suggesting
budget.
in that we start with the agenda, because there's a lot of stuff.
Oh, for
in
the
there.
following meeting?
Yes.
Oh, I see.
Okay.
PA report.
Sounds like we're booked,
Is it?
we're basically booked, if we move Reccom, we're booked through 9 o'clock, at the least.
Because we have
At the
the,
least.
Where's the agenda?
John Fisher's,
Oh,
request.
here it is.
Well, there's that, it's not even on
Yeah.
there, and there's Reccom, and they're gonna have something, and we told Rebecca she's coming on, so we can't do all of that.
Well, we could take off municipal land needs, maybe.
Right, that's fine, it's our,
That
Although
would
it
be
would
our-
be nice to
That's
have,
right.
we need to get that kicked off somewhere along it, but not
Let me-
that night.
okay, let me rephrase the issue.
Yeah.
The agenda, other than the things that are locked in, starts at 9 o'clock at the earliest. In other words, after cable needs assessment, which is set, tax class hearing, which is set, dog hearing, which we just set,
Right.
we move to 9 o'clock. And what we have on the table is municipal,
Our goal.
or whatever, what was it, the governance task force,
Oh, yeah, governance.
right?
Yep.
We've got
The police,
police requests,
Fisher's request,
and then we start in on any of these other things that are on the list.
yeah, the
Yeah.
select board goals.
So I would suggest we have at most half an hour, so we can do one of those things.
I don't even think we have that, to tell you the truth.
No,
Let's go back through it. 7 o'clock.
No, I think, why don't, unless others on the board think it's
work at the
Work that
agenda
five
for the
of us
next
could do
meeting.
this.
To figure out
You know,
how
I
we'll-
think what, David, you and I and Tim and Jen should have our follow-up discussion as we usually would tomorrow or Thursday, and then, we can rework this.
Well, I don't mind that, but I guess I would because we're going to do that, I would appreciate others' opinion on what of those other things are important. Because I just
Okay.
think there's just not enough time to do almost any of it.
So I have a question,
other thing-
because we've rejiggered our December
Yes,
calendar,
yes.
that sort of gives us an extra week if we are running out of
I'm
time.
fine with that.
I'm just
Yeah, we have
offering
that,
that as
that meeting,
an alternate.
2 in December now instead of just 1.
Right.
Yeah.
and,
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so as long as everybody's
So-
aware that everything might slide to the right.
Nathan or Luke, do you want to offer any comment on what you think's most important to do next week out of the kind of optional, next meeting out of the optional ones?
Doesn't matter to me, I mean, I'm fine with putting it on, and then if we don't have time, we just shift it, you know? I mean,
Okay.
maybe something will go quick.
It would be good to hear from the government.
Never seems
Well, we
to,
got
but
it.
maybe.
None of the things we have separate.
Yeah, no, but.
All right,
yeah.
so just one at a time, please. And so Nathan, what was your comment? It'd be
Uh,
good to,
It would be good to make sure that we're getting the governance committee.
Yeah.
And obviously, with the 2 public hearings we have to do.
right,
I do wonder, when are we gonna come back around and do the appointments, the rest of the appointments to the municipal facilities committee?
If we get any more applicants, I guess.
Because we did 1, so I think technically, I think that's just in a messed up state. I think we need to figure that one out quickly.
okay. Would somebody on the board like to take responsibility for sort of coming back with a proposal? I'm not quite sure what the issues are. But do we want to do that right now, or just
Proposal for,
about, well, what Nathan's raising about appointments to the municipal facilities committee?
We short somebody?
Well,
we have
haven't-
5 out of 7, I think, but we have enough for a quorum so that they can already start to meet. The only possibility is we revise their charter and we have a committee of 5.
So the people whose terms expired are no longer attending or on it?
Are you talking, municipal facilities?
Yeah, that's
Oh,
what he
municipal-
said.
Oh, I'm sorry, I was.
You're still thinking public safety?
I was thinking public safety.
Oh,
I'm
no,
sorry.
I'm way past that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, everybody,
We've got 4.
Um,
But I think we appointed somebody, which kind of takes away the argument that people can stay on because we weren't appointing. I think it's just in a weird state that we need to make the appointment to that committee.
Well, can I ask the 2 of you to try to figure out what we need to do, and we could,
But I actually think we did that last time. We appointed somebody, the other person, one person was, and reappointed one person, appointed a new person.
Who are the current?
Christine Lear, Carrie Patel, Jerry Lerman, myself, and Scott Simpson. And there must be somebody else.
is there Rizzo on it?
No, he's an alternate, and
Steve Hinton is an
Steve
alternate.
Hinton is an alternate. Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna ask the 2 of you if maybe you can communicate
right.
outside of this meeting
Sure.
and see if you can sort out, well, if we need to bring something to the
Yeah,
board.
I'm pretty sure we have
Okay.
a full complement.
You okay with that, Nathan?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. All right, so what I've heard is that we want to try to get the governance task force on the next meeting, and that we'll try to work that out when we need to review it, okay?
So that probably
Agenda.
means moving Mr. Fisher, Chief Fisher.
Yeah, let's see how it plays out as we go through it. All right, so for tonight, then, let us, well, while we're here, so everybody's gotten the change of dates, or the way we've rearranged December, correct? So December, we have a meeting on the 7th and the 21st now is what we're being proposed. So
Yeah.
instead of making it the 2nd and 4th Tuesday of the month, it's the 1st and 3rd to the holiday.
Oh, I'm sorry, I wasn't aware of that change. I'm
Okay.
sorry.
December.
It's at the bottom of this proposed agenda.
Okay,
And
so
we do
sorry,
know-
so it's the 7th?
Yep.
Yeah,
That was already scheduled, right?
Yeah, and, no, it wasn't.
No,
These are
that's the
both
first-
changes.
that's the first Tuesday, so it would have been
Won't be here, okay.
the 14th and the 28th.
Oddly, it's already scheduled for me.
And we know that that's the meeting, we're having the joint meeting with the FinCom before they issue their guidance letter
Yeah.
in mid-December. And then the one on the 21st, we just have the 2022 license renewals, not just, but that's one of the things we know we're going to do there. Does everybody else think they can make the 7th and the 21st? Because Luke could not make the 7th.
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
Okay. All right, well, if you would let, if you can't make,
I just hope you don't make an executive session early, because I've got a 4:45 annual meeting for another board
on the 7th,
on the 7th. Yeah.
okay, no executive session on the 7th.
Thank you. Oh, actually, I had scheduled a 7:30 housing trust, because we always
Right, you
do.
go the opposite. You think we might prevail on you to
Okay, I
switch the
will
housing
switch
trust
that.
to the one
I will.
we aren't meeting?
Yeah, I will.
Thank you,
Good thing
Kate.
I looked at this.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, let us take a look, Tim, if you're still up for it, to looking at your proposed budget, which is in our packet, along with the questionnaire that been completed for the Finance Committee, and also the printout that he provided of the, what would you call it,
The replacement.
the technology, the
Right,
computer,
it's totally unreadable.
yeah.
Place is stressful.
We have to give him any money.
It's right.
All righty, and then also we have the comparable assistant town administrator
Yeah.
salary range, that's also included here, but why don't we, does it make sense to start with your just review of basically kind of what you presented to the Finance Committee?
Yeah,
the
sure, I
review
can-
of the questionnaire, and then what's in your budget?
I can summarize,
Okay, that'd be great.
What I presented, the FinCom, it's a relatively flat budget in comparison to the last 2 years. We had a fairly light year in terms of legal expenses. We overspent some categories. It all kind of balances out in a bottom line way in the end. So sometimes it's a little deceiving because, one account can kind of save the budget, if you will. FinCom asked about services during COVID. I think, Select Board's office has done a good job. During COVID, we were one of the first departments that came back to the building to offer services. In the meantime, Jen took over the transfer station stickers and notarizations for the clerk's office. I think the public is well served by our office. Certainly, I pointed out some of the known increases for next year, one of which we already talked about a bit earlier. The audit expense will be about $40,000 next year, because we'll be budgeting now for that single audit, that additional audit that we will expect because of CARES and ARPA and federal money. So the audit expense will go up in future years. The veterans agent services are going from 10 to 12,000, and it's our share of the Bedford, Lexington, Carlisle Veterans District, and I know some people tend to focus on, geez, we only have one veteran that's getting state benefits, and we really need a veterans agent. I think what's generally not well known, I guess, that there are 30 veterans and or their spouses that are getting federal veterans benefits to the tune of about $50,000 a month. And the veteran service officer is their advocate, the person that will fight with the VA if necessary for them. And now that Gina has office hours here in the town hall, as well as being available in Lexington during the week, I think our veterans are getting better service than they ever did. It's more than we used to pay in the past, but I don't think, we were serving the veterans as well, frankly. So I think that's money well spent.
I'm again proposing that we add the position of an assistant town administrator. I think the demands on this office have increased in recent years in terms of HR functions, personnel, IT, procurement. I think we need to build some capacity in this office. Most towns have the position of assistant town administrator. I pointed out to FinCom that all of our neighbors have assistant town administrators, and they told me those towns aren't good comparisons. They're all bigger than we are. Towns like Concord, we shouldn't use them. Apparently, they're good comps when we're talking about schools and police, and but they're not such good comps when we talk about town administration. Anyway, I did include the list of our theoretical comparable communities, the ones that we use for our salary and wage table. And you'll see that most of those towns do have the position. Most of them pay considerably more than the 70 to 80K I was kind of proposing for our budget. But I do think it's a position we should consider adding. I don't know, necessarily what the government task force will be proposing to town meeting. If it's a bylaw or home rule petition, it's probably not going to, come to fruition for a couple of years. So it may be maybe some time. I don't know that I'd want to wait until that sort of thing gets sorted out, but I guess we'll hear from them in a couple of weeks. I think it's also important in terms of succession planning. I know that, someday the town will be hiring a new town administrator, and honestly, the position would be more attractive to applicants if they know there's some support in the term, in terms of an assistant town administrator, that they won't be going, the days of the one-arm paper hanger model, I think, are coming to an end. I think that when people are looking for those positions, they're looking for the resources and the staff that's available. I think it helps from that sense. It also helps that you've got someone learning the position, someone who could step up someday to become a town administrator after a number of, some time as the assistant. In terms of the town hall budget, we were asked to pull out utilities and expenses that might be more appropriate to a facilities budget. And I think I identified about 100,000 in expenses, although frankly, I think there's more there than that even. But if the town is going to have a consolidated facilities budget, I think a lot of what's in the town hall budget could end up in that as well. Probably the two items that sort of jump out, I think, are contracts and computer maintenance. They're both considerably, overspent in terms of what we budgeted for them last year. In most years, the biggest contractual item is that the annual payment for the Munis financial software comes out of the town hall budget proper. That's about $31,000. I've often thought that should be part of the treasurer's budget or in the finance area, but it's always been in the town hall budget. And we may need another major update to that within a few years. I think, as you know, only the finance department uses Munis now. They're the only ones that know how to use the system. So it's kind of we've talked about introducing it to the department so they could remotely sort of manage their budget, but so far that hasn't happened. We've had a lot in recent years. We have a water testing company, small water systems. They do quarterly water testing here and at the library, and then they do some work for the schools as well. There's been additional testing required by DEP because of something called PFAS, which is a contaminant is in our drinking water and needs to be addressed, but also at the library. So they might be ripe to be considered for projects with ARPA funds going forward to mitigate the risk with the PFAS. Elevator maintenance is one area that we've consolidated with the schools. Now for once now we all have the same elevator vendor, and But, you know, we see some economies of scale with that. I think we had a $10,000 repair to the town common flagpole last year that was unexpected as well, that is reflected in contracts. You'll see that the computer maintenance or IT expense, that's largely drive tech. That was about $58,000 last year. We added the IT position to the budget and advertised it, and really did not get a response to that at all. The technology working group put forth the idea of expanding the services of a third-party vendor and developing an RFP to do that. The Finance Committee believes we should continue to advertise the position. This may be the first time they've ever advocated adding a full-time position to the budget, but they'd like to see us kind of go the other way and use those funds for the salary positions. Still needs to be worked out, obviously. The technology working group is meeting later this week to discuss that, and also we're proposing to, going forward, that replace people's desktop systems with docking stations for laptops. If they were issued a laptop during the pandemic, and we had about 20 or more people where that was the case, we can replace their desktop unit by putting a docking station in for their laptop. It's about $1,000 savings per system if we were to go at it that way. It doesn't mean you have to bring your computer in from home to plug it in, but that seems like a small price to pay. And I talked a little bit to the Finance Committee about, you know, I think we've got some opportunities for succession planning, you know, in our land use, within our land use board, within DPW, and, you know, hopefully the timing works out with what the governance task force is working on. But I think, you know, we've got an opportunity to make some changes going forward. And we should, you know, take advantage of that if possible. So I guess that's kind of a rough summary of what I presented to them. The 5-year replacement schedule for technology was included with that as well. I think what else was in this questionnaire, the spreadsheet of the budget, and the capital, which was moved into the operating budget by FinCom last year, because it's not so much of a capital expense as an operating cost. And they did the same thing with the school department technology, but that's part of their operating budget. It's not a capital expense from year to year. So that was the budget that I presented to them a couple of weeks ago. So I've got to get back to Jim Dar about the assistant town manager position. And I said, well, I'm going to present this to the board, and we'll see if that's a viable alternative after Tuesday. And so it may or may not be part of the budget. I do think it's needed, but I realize that the timing is always an issue with adding things to the budget. So, any questions?
Oh, I'm an enthusiastic supporter of the assistant town administrator slot. Personally, I think there's a lot of things that need to be done, but I don't know when you would ever have a chance to do them because of everything that we've already put on your plate.
By the way, we're never going to let you leave, so
Yeah.
succession planning is out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I agree with Kate. You know, I think the HR piece is huge.
Oh,
yeah, I think it's the biggest significant piece of it.
It is, and if we, you know, we've been talking about doing merit, and we need to make sure somebody's really in there that, you know, can be directing and pushing and the evaluations, making sure they're being done and done correctly, and to help with all that.
If we're gonna take on the overhead of, benefits and everything of a new position, I think it's more important to have an assistant administrator than a tech person.
Well, at the end of the day, too, the tech person, I mean, if we spend 58,000, right, you're not gonna get somebody for, what is it, 70 or something? Right? So even if we increase that budget, like, I don't know, I mean, it'd be great to have somebody in-house, but at the cost that I think we would get somebody out.
Well, in fact, we were saying we were gonna increase that budget with that money that was given for the position.
Yeah, no, but I think it's just pushback on income.
Yeah.
Well, wait, let's back it up,
Yeah.
'cause, all right, so a year ago or more, we authorized 100,000 in the IT position, right?
Right, and that was
Yeah.
the request,
Okay,
right?
and we budgeted that, and we got nobody. And we.
Well,
have-
what did we
that's the-
pass at town meeting?
That got knocked down,
Down to
the final
75.
budget,
Did
it
it really?
got knocked down to 75.
Okay.
And part of the thinking was that there'd be some savings from what we were paying to drive tech.
Move
It
over.
could
Yeah.
be moved over.
So where's in your budget, where's computer maintenance, is that what we pay Drive Tech?
That drive tech comes out of that, yeah.
So you're only proposing 25, but in fact, we pay them like 60.
That's what's been budgeted historically.
And is that what they're using now, only 25?
Last year, they spent 58.
No, I know,
Yeah,
but this year it says 25, and next year you're proposing 25. So that assumes an IT person?
Yeah, that assumes that we either the position or we'd modify that.
Right, but I mean, as things stand right now, you're saying an IT, 25 to Drive Tech, and 75 for a person, if you could get that person.
If we could do that, or we'd expand that 25.
Or we'd expand that,
Yeah.
and that was a discussion, and I think Nathan had offered to talk to Drive Tech. Did we end up
You already have
talking?
started that,
Yeah,
haven't you?
we're having conversations with them.
And then we agreed we would RFP it.
Right, we definitely,
Okay.
right.
So then the mosquito, so that's the IT. Then the mosquito reported that you told FinCom, I think, if I remember accurately, that the IT position was more important than the ATA position.
Well, I think that,
Were you misquoted on that?
no, I did say that, although frankly, I didn't think I should have to choose. I mean, they don't have.
That's the next
Other
question.
departments, which ones you rather have.
I know, but
But,
somehow there was an either or question, and however.
I said I'd like to solve the IT position.
First.
We funded it first, and then, yeah.
Okay.
So in terms
So,
of timing.
but it sounds like really the right answer is, from what I'm hearing, is the IT thing is, if we don't yet know if that's a person or a service, so
Right.
let's let that go on its course. Now we're talking about a new position that we generally agree isn't necessary. Is that
Right,
right?
yeah, they're not,
So
it's
it's not
not
an
either
either.
or, right.
Right,
really.
and so I just want to be clear, I was not suggesting that we not do that role. I was just saying from a priorities of people, I wasn't saying we pull that money back. We need that money for tech
Right,
support.
Right, but I think we agree. I want to make sure Jim Dar and company understand that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, I'm only going with what I read in the paper. I wasn't at the hearing, but when FinCom says they support it, do they support it in front of an IT or as another position?
The FinCom did not
They don't
support,
think
they didn't say they supported it.
They support an IT position.
They do support the IT.
That's what
They've
they
not
do.
weighed in on the ATA.
No, not yet, no.
Right.
So We're,
They'd
sounds like
rather
we're
see that
saying
be
we
a
support-
position.
Yeah, we support exploring an ATA.
Okay.
Well, they suggested it for, that maybe it should be, advertised like at Indeed and various other places.
Oh, okay, but I mean, getting an
Yeah,
IT
the
person
net
for
further.
75.
Yeah, it's not very- yeah, much
We
money.
can forget about it.
Well, here's my, in just taking this all by itself, the idea of an assistant town administrator, seems definitely worth considering, but I'm thinking about the other departments that have asked for additional staff and the fact that we have, made sort of some starting efforts in terms of the land use functions to think about how you might reorganize that. And then we have the town governance committee. And I understand, Tim, your concern about, how long will it take them to come back with proposals. But I am reluctant to commit us to another, full-time position in the town hall budget at the same time that we're looking at, additional hours or even additional staff in other departments. And I'm not quite sure how we get there, but I wish we could be looking at it holistically and saying, if you restructured, if you reorganized or potentially restructured the town hall functions, is there a way to do this more effectively, efficiently, and not have to hire as many different positions as are being requested currently?
That's where we need the government.
And then, so the dilemma is, where the need is right now, and, how long can we wait for the governance task force? And in fact, are they even really addressing this at the level we're talking about? So I guess we'll know more when they come, give us their update, right, in 2 weeks.
I have to say, in terms of supporting the other departments that are asking for hours, I'm feeling frustrated about the IT part, because I think that would have gone a long way towards supporting some of the functions that they're doing, and that would have then maybe taken some of the pressure off of them, So I feel like,
Right, could you, if you use technology more effectively, and could it reduce the hours of work, and therefore reduce the need for more hiring?
That's right.
More hours.
Right, so it was, again, that's another case of it's,
Right.
Trying to support the staff.
But, I agree with that, but I think the bigger issue that Barney is alluding to, and this is a pretty important thing, actually, that I think we're gonna have to consider next meeting, when we meet with Rebecca, that we had a lot of small group meetings to prepare to create the governance task force. And then we agreed that Wayne Davis would put that together, and he would do that more or less independent of select board oversight, and he would figure that out. Okay, so far so good. But then I think they were deliberately launched without guidance from us, the people that met in these small meetings to kind of think about these kind of issues, like land use consolidation. I don't know that we specifically identified an assistant town administrator, but we looked at the HR function of the town administrator. We looked at those things, and I guess I don't have insight into what they're doing other than the presentation that's in our packet this time that we were hoping to hear about, but it sure doesn't seem like they're going in that direction. So I guess my feeling, since they seem to be in this data gathering, is that it's incumbent on us next time to kind of give that vision of what we want them to spend their time on. I don't know if that's consistent with Wayne's, because Wayne was kind of made it sound like hands off, they'll present the town meeting completely independent of select oversight. But we have some very specific things that we're hoping will be addressed through this process. And I don't know whether they're lined up that way. So I guess that's all for the next 2 weeks.
I don't think they are.
I don't think they are. So
I think they're they choose their own path.
And so they can, but if their path, and this is, I guess, wrapped back to the APA, if their path ends up being some completely different path, that's their right to do that, but that would still leave us with an unmet need of restructuring the town hall. But I guess we can't answer that till we hear from them, but if that is the case, then we have to take that out, because they didn't want to.
I agree.
That goes right back to whether we hire, and what does that town administrator do?
Well, I think this is helpful in terms of when they're back in 2 weeks, that we need to be clear about something we would like them to be looking at, or ask the question, are you looking at this? And then why we think it would be a helpful thing to look at. And then depending on their response, we can figure out where
we should dust off our goals and kind of point them to those particular. Again, they don't report to us, so
Correct.
Our goals are not their goals, but they should be aware that.
And I think they want their input, from my understanding from talking to a couple of the members. They definitely want input from people that are in leadership roles, but they do see themselves as working independently.
So I want to leave that in, I want to ask two other questions of you, Tim. One is sort of a simple, dumb one. It's my fault for not being aware of this stuff, but the MFC, does it have its own budget or is it all tucked in here?
The facilities manager is in the town hall budget.
Right, and then there's some line item of travel, but the
And
actual.
all the expenses are in the individual departments,
Okay.
the utilities.
Right, but
There's talk of bringing those all together.
But the person, so if it was all brought together, so would the facility manager.
That would be part of it as well.
And now because the school, he left already or he's leaving?
December, yeah.
December.
Is there gonna be this joint one then?
That, we're talking with Jim about that. There's opportunity, obviously, with the.
Because you have kind of a
Change there.
half-time in here, right? It's not a full-time, it doesn't.
Facility
Current
manager
facility manager is part-time.
47.7.
So if it went to a shared full-time, you'd have a piece and school would have a piece, or would it be just its own thing then?
It hasn't really been fleshed out, you know. I suspect that whoever's the facilities manager at the school is gonna be the overall head of the facilities department. But,
School saying they
some
need a little
meetings on
more.
that.
They would need to have some more money,
More money.
school needs a little more money than to backfill whatever, hands-on things that the current position is doing that they would no longer be able to
This
do.
part-time position would go away. from that.
No,
It would, no, it would still exist, I think. It would just be under a facilities manager townwide is the.
Oh, okay, so
Yeah.
it wouldn't be one person that splits his or her duties. It would be a facilities manager at school that has oversight over the town buildings.
yes.
Yeah, but I think
still
you
this-
still need someone in the
Yeah.
town buildings who would do
Probably
it.
need
Yeah.
the way Jim has been talking about it, probably he needs another custodian in his
I understand,
budget.
yeah, Jim made that point, right?
Yeah, okay, but this guy, this facility manager still stays here for the town,
Yeah.
but would report to the new overall
Mm-hmm.
facilities department.
Okay.
Okay, and my last question is the color chart. It just, from a top, I don't want to get into the weeds of it, but, you know, mostly you replace the older ones, you're on some cycle, right? It doesn't look like it's as rigid as a school has, like a pretty rigid 4 or 5 year cycle, but you got
Well,
some
you
from,
said no.
you have some from 2012, you have some from 2015. But then in the red ones where you're swapping, what happens, are the old, if you issued a bunch of people laptops,
Yeah.
and then the desktops they no longer use are clunkers, I mean, they're just gonna go away then? Is that what this is trying to say, or?
Well, they have, when they're here, they use the desktop. When they're remote, they use the laptop. When their desktop comes up in the schedule, we're talking about replacing that with the docking station for the laptop.
Why not just go do that like right away? Like, wait.
I know,
So I think
the
what-
technology group's meeting this week to talk about the policy.
We're talking about this week, and we're trying to figure out, like, what happens with this, and going through this in detail. Like, some people whose computer could get replaced because they have a laptop is still a really great computer, so we may not replace somebody else's computer and just.
I mean, it goes somewhere else, but I mean, if I'm used to now using my laptop at home, because that's what I got during the pandemic, I don't have to go turn that. They have no way right now of bringing their laptop into the office and making it the workstation when they're here.
They can bring it in, but they already have a computer on their desk, so we want to take that computer off their desk and put a docking station in.
okay.
Yeah.
And some of these are,
That same monitor that they are.
right, and they're different vintages, but I guess, I presume because most of them look pretty, well, no, some of them aren't that. The dates here are the dates of the desktop that would be replaced, or the laptop that replaced it?
The dates in this?
Yeah, the red. They look like 21, so they're probably new laptops, right? You're not buying new desktops right now, are you?
No,
Last contact.
Which date are you referring to?
Well, I'm saying there's an installed, there's only one place where there's a date.
Yeah, that's last contact. That you can't, that could be yesterday.
Yeah,
Oh,
So that doesn't mean anything. That doesn't speak to the age of the equipment.
no, there's the system install date,
Yeah, that one.
but
right.
that, don't
Yeah.
trust that.
Don't
Yeah.
trust that. Okay, so it's, I can't really draw any conclusions from this.
No.
But basically, I mean, that was the question. You're not buying, that, we're kind of out of the desktop business, right?
I think we want to get out of the desktop business wherever we
All right,
can.
those are my questions. Thank you.
All right, I have a question for you, Tim, on the budget, the town hall and general expenses. So what I'm trying to, you've got your FY '21 actual expenditures, but I don't, am I missing it? Is there a total for what that was?
No, he didn't.
Yeah, that's actually a
Yeah,
question I was gonna ask.
Okay,
Yeah, we
because I was
should've
trying to
totaled.
Yeah.
understand, I wanted to be able to compare that
To
to
the
then the, well, fiscal year '22 budgeted, right? Those,
Right,
those,
you'd have to
what
add up
that
all the
total
pieces,
is,
yeah.
and then trying to look at what your new proposed budget is. Do you have a,
I do have that, I cut it off, I think, on this
Uh-huh.
sheet, I can get that to you.
But you can see
you
from
know
the,
what the percentage increase is from,
Or decrease.
or decrease?
Yeah.
That's true, that's
It's
true.
just a percent or two currently,
That's
but
gone.
I didn't put in the, you know,
That's,
a new position or, you know.
that's what I was
There's no
gonna
new
ask you, so you
position.
don't have in here,
Back, where is the?
you don't have in
IT
here,
position?
an assistant town administrator salary
No,
that you're
no,
proposing
not
in
yet,
your budget. That was just in your narrative, okay. And in here, though, you do have, just this, you have the IT, the 75,000, is that in here
Yeah.
somewhere?
Where is it?
I don't see it.
I didn't see it.
Town hall budget,
Okay, town hall budget.
You mean under, let's see, under
no.
wage? No.
No, we're not seeing it.
No, it's not in there. Not even any facility
I mean,
electricity.
you
We
have
have
the,
part-time wages.
oh, no, there it is, contracted services.
No, that,
Is that
because
it?
it wouldn't be contracted.
No.
Oh, but mind you, it does say 75K.
I know, but,
Oh, maybe because you're thinking that
Oh,
goes
yeah,
into
that's-
consultant? That's the,
yeah,
for drive
that's
tech?
where it is right now, yeah. But it could be applied to a
okay,
position.
so the,
It could be a consultant.
okay,
So where is that?
contracted services
Ah.
could be a position.
Gotcha,
Right,
So you have a placeholder
Ah,
of
there's the
75, which you
75.
haven't spent,
okay.
right.
and you put it, and then you put it into the budget. So, I mean,
For
I think
FY
that the main thing, I agree with you,
okay.
Barney, that it should have been, you should have done the totals, but if you look across the department totals,
Yeah, you can
it's a
kind of see.
pretty modest increase.
Right, okay.
Without
And
the
so,
ATA.
Without the ATA, and you're thinking you'd put the ATA, well, if we look at your comparables, you're thinking you ought to do it at, what did you think?
80 or something.
You should put it in as, here's the comparables,
75
yeah.
or 80, I would say.
Yeah, because these are
That's what we're buying.
There we are,
HR procurement,
Dover.
yeah. So Boxborough is 70 to 85,
Yeah, then they're usually pretty good
yeah.
model for us. Well, I'll put that in, I mean, I'll revise the budget and I'll include the total, see if we keep it true.
So remind me of the process. Would you first do a job description for personnel to?
Yeah, it would,
Yeah.
yeah, there's interest in going forward with it. I mean,
We
I
would,
didn't want
we
to,
would give you the green light to interest.
yeah, to
or
go
just
to
fix-
We'll
personnel,
have the,
and see where it
to
was.
draft a job description and have the personnel board,
They grade
grade it.
Grade it. and then-
Yeah.
So that would,
And then that
that would
would,
speak to what, you know, what the pay band would be.
right.
and then you can put that in, and then FinCom would have to approve that.
Including it in the budget, right,
Right.
right, Jim has asked about that already.
So back to timing, if the governance, I mean, I think we recognize the need, but as you say, it's not a complete picture because we don't know what reorganization stuff might come out of government.
I think we have to act as if it's not happening,
Okay, we'll just do what we.
because otherwise we'll drive ourselves nuts.
Okay.
That's what we did with the master plan, and then it went a totally different direction and left us high and dry. Sort of, so,
Okay, all right.
Tim, I know we've talked about this before. Do we have any sort of fairly up-to-date town hall chart of the various positions and who reports to whom?
The organizational chart is,
Yeah.
of course, but yeah, we've got one, it's maybe a year old, but yeah, I can find that for you.
It's about,
Right.
you put it on 11 by 17 feet.
Yeah, it's like a mile wide and an inch deep, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
Tim has it worked out like a comb.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because maybe we need to tackle that ourselves
Well,
if we
that's
don't
what we've
think
been
we've got the
trying
right.
to do with the
Land use.
personnel and with with the director of personnel. We've been trying to put
Right.
people, they call it the chain of command up
Right.
this way and through the personnel procedures.
Right.
And
So I
that,
think I think we should wait to see what they come up with, and if they're not going that way, like you said, we gotta reconvene that we want.
yeah. It can always be redone, I mean, because no matter what, if there's a reorganization, there's a reorganization. At least you got the positions to reorganize. If you don't have the positions,
Well, you
And it
have,
also, it's kind of a living document in that my own view is, I wouldn't see us saying, okay, here's the new organizational chart for town hall, and we're gonna implement this as of this date, which means your job now is gonna change to this, and your job is gonna change to this, and in fact, this person, is not gonna be rehired, whatever, right? It's gonna be sort of, my view would be, it's, as people choose to retire or leave, that you have in mind a way to, restructure things, or if you have a department like the COA where you have a new director who then takes a look at their own, staff and structure and does their own reorganization, great. But it would be something that would happen over time.
yeah, the problem though, I have to say, I think, and Tim alluded to it in his report, and we talked about it a year ago or more. So, like what Joan's doing, taking over and rejiggering, that's great, because it's sort of self-contained. But
Right.
when we talk about the retirement of the town planner, and, some coming up retirements and some slots in town, including, DPW eventually, and, all these things, where we know these are coming.
Yeah,
If we leave it to each department, they'll sort of rejigger it in their own image
right,
again.
right.
I think we
No, we
have an
don't want that.
opportunity
yeah,
now
I agree.
to look, because of the demographic of the more senior leaders in town government, to recreate the job descriptions. And as that relates to ATA, it's kind of the same. I think it's incumbent on us to set that up so whoever we hire has a clear expectation of where the future's going. So I think it takes a fair amount of work.
Yeah, I do too.
I don't think we can
Yeah.
just passively wait for this.
And in fact, this is, by the way, for the maintenance department, it's the same sort of thing. We have an opportunity here.
Right.
The idea is not to do it all, bang,
Right.
full blown, but we'd be looking for, Jim and Tim would be looking for somebody that would then,
Right, well, they have an opportunity now.
they have the opportunity and they would know that this is the direction the thing is
Right.
going to be, that they would be expecting to bring everything
Right.
into, and,
Right, and
it'd be
they
little
seem
step-
aligned on that objective, so.
I
And
would
IT, I
say-
would put the same. I mean, we either go to a service model or we have somebody in with a vision. So I think we got to, I don't know when we have time to do this, but we really have to take a step back and kind of look at that whole canvas. Again, I want to wait. I don't want to steal the governance
No.
committee's thunder, because they may have some ideas.
Yeah,
All right, well, I think, unless others have something they want to say on this, I think I want to ask, is it the sense of this board that we want to, while not ready to, sign off on the dotted line, but we are thinking it's worth having Tim move this to the personnel board?
I propose that we write a job description that we edit based on this discussion, and then we'll get what it's cost.
And it would have something about HR, but I think it has other things in it as
Yeah,
well, right?
definitely, which you
Tim, because-
also mentioned.
Yeah.
But that's a
You're
lot
right.
of comparable towns here.
Yeah, absolutely, because,
The HR.
and,
Right.
and some of the procurement
no,
stuff,
sure.
I think, could be going to some
Facilities.
procurements will be going to
That's
facilities,
what I
that would
think, yeah.
hopefully take something.
But the
So
HR will
to
be the
give
biggest
you
piece.
then the time to do, I mean, basically, most of our staff are so overloaded with stuff that they can't do that forward planning and strategic thinking that they'd like to do for the town. And hopefully, I'm hoping that gives you, yeah, and they're the ones that are closest to the problem. People that are closest to the problem are the ones that need to be the ones that are driving the change. Okay.
All right, so does that sound good to you, Tim, that you
Yes,
draft
I
the
will
job
do that.
description, bring it back, and then we'll offer our input, and then it can go forward to personnel from there, if that still makes sense. Okay.
And personnel is meeting, hopefully,
More or less,
more or less.
but the rule still applies, I think, that if they don't.
If they
they're
don't,
unable to-
you're the one
It
that's
goes
reading
back
it.
to Tim, who grades his position.
So that's good.
Yeah.
Okay, I just want to make sure that that rule's still in place.
Okay, I think we have completed the work most of what we were, some of what we were hoping to do tonight.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't ask Justin Neal, but what his notification said about what time the hearing started. Don't know how that happened.
I don't know.
You know, I did see in the packet, you know, that,
Responsibility for it. I did sign that letter and it said 8:30, but
yeah.
I think all of our other information said 7:30, so
Yeah.
it's just
Well, because in the packet, I noticed the motion to open the hearing said 8:30. I don't know if you remember that, yeah. No, this was the one, the draft that I saw, and so I sent it back.
I don't know if we ever changed the time, I can't remember, but
Yeah.
I should have caught that.
Yeah, but
Well,
anyway,
no.
okay. In any case, I think we are ready, unless someone wants to offer any comments before we do, that we're ready to adjourn.
I move we adjourn. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, we are adjourned at 9:42 PM. Look at that,
All right.
just 7.